Well,
So what I
Dale,
was,
2024, man, what's going on?
yeah, we'll see what's going on.
Yeah,
What I was, what I was about to tell you, Jim, was, you're talking about the fans booing coaches. Um, I had wings with Coach Baker at Huff the other day, and we got to talking, and he was talking about that game that you and I were at last year, and you remember the second after they were up 7-0 and they were inside the 5 yard line,
right,
and he went for it, and instead of kicking a field goal,
right.
and they turned the ball over, and then the next thing you know, there was a pretty big play that got a lot of yards. What he told me was that, first of all, if he had to do it over again, he'd do the same thing again.
Right,
He said no team all year had ever driven 90 yards on them. No
right.
team had driven 90 yards on them. So he felt pretty good that if they didn't get it, they'd be able to hold and get the ball back and decent field position and have another shot at it. And of course, the very first play was a really, really big play. Um,
Mm.
that's one of those that I'm sure fans were questioning. Um, I I was talking with him about one of the things I want to talk about here sometime, not tonight, but sometime
Right.
in the near future, is that whole I want to get a coach on, and that whole thing of the fans thinking they know what should be called. So if you run the ball and you don't get what you should have gotten, they'll yell and say, "Well, you should have thrown the ball," and vice versa. You know,
Right.
throw the ball, they would be like, "Why did you run?" Or if you run right, they'd be, "Why did you run left?" And why didn't you run left? And so I wanna get some coaches' thoughts on that and kind of drive home to maybe somebody who watches this, Jim, what
Well,
coaches go through to
right.
get to the point of being able to make that decision that they make, that the fans don't go through. They don't watch film. They don't know tendencies and strengths and weaknesses, et cetera, of the other team. So,
Well, that's the thing about it is, I mean, I'm gonna say probably 2/3 of the fans, they all feel like they could be a coach of a football team, and I mean, they love to have the glory and call plays, but they won't wash the clothes, But the one thing I tell people though is, yeah, you might want to do, play number three or whatever, play blue 4-7 or whatever. But don't you think a good defensive coordinator might already have it planned that you might take that play and want to make sure that they don't you don't score or don't gain a first down on that play? A
see,
lot of times it's a cat and mouse game. There's a lot of chess in
hmm
football.
yeah, I'm going to say that's where the chess comes in because
Right.
the the offensive coordinator has studied the other team, knows so they know down and distance first, and they know what works best for them in those types of
Right.
down and distance situations. And then they have done enough study to know what works against the team that they're playing in that down and distance. And then on the flip side, the defensive coordinator knows what you like to do in that down and distance situation.
Right.
And also, it's not just down and distance, it's down, distance, and place you're at on the field.
Right.
Um, so there's so many factors that come into what play are you going to call. And the fans don't go through any of that. They've seen no film. They don't know any of this. So yeah, I want to get a coach on, maybe several times throughout the year, and just have that conversation with them about what do they go through on the offensive side for what they call,
Right.
and then on the defensive side, why do
I
they
agree.
line up, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting though when you talk to the fans, you're like, oh gosh, I don't know why they went for a field goal. We're right, we're only 4 yards. We can push it in fourth down and get through, or we can do a little flare pass and stuff. And
Exactly.
it's a lot easier to get 4 downs or 4 yards on a third down than it is on a fourth down.
That's right.
Once you have the fourth down, your playbook slows or gets a little bit less because you're not willing to take quite as much risk. You can take a lot more risk on first down. Well, maybe not quite as much on second down, but pretty good risk on depending on how you did on the first down. Third down,
Exactly.
you got to really think. Our goal objective right now is just to get that first down. Fourth down, you got to say, well, my goal is to either get good field position or to get a first down. And
Well, third down can input a little bit of risk depending on, again, down distance, or excuse me, not down. We know the down is third, distance and place on the field. So if you're 3rd and 1, you may be willing to run the ball inside because you see that I've really got two. I'm going to risk that I will take 2 shots at this unless
right,
something really bad happens and I lose 3 or 4 yards instead of at least getting back to the line of scrimmage. So there are just so many things, and the fans do not consider any of that. They just see what happened. Their reaction is always after,
right.
hindsight. Why did you run right? Why did you run a gap? Why, all these little things that happen that they know better because, well, what was just ran did not work.
You
But
know,
yeah,
that game between Huff and Grimsley, one other thing I'll mention, it wasn't just the fans in the stands. There were some fans on the sidelines with us that
I
were,
I talked to Coach Baker about that. I told him, and I'm
and
not
that
gonna.
was that's not outside the 20s. That's not the coach's realm. The coach's realm is between the 25s. Outside the 25s, people need not to be fans. They need to be objective. And when
Well,
you have
that
somebody that's acting up, it can be a distraction, not just to you, but to the players.
that activity that we are discussing um, could have seen a flag thrown
Right.
against Huff,
Mm-hmm.
um, even though the coaches and players did nothing. In fact, I'm surprised that official did not throw a flag. It really is it shows them, I don't know, the patience or the will of the official uh, to not let that impact him. But that was a 100% situation that should not have ever occurred.
Right.
Um, to
Even those
play,
officials, I thought the officials did a good job overall. Some of the calls were subjective, and I mean, there were, but you know what? Right or wrong, I'd have supported the refs on those calls. There was nothing that was, to me, flagrantly
right.
wrong with any of those calls.
Well, the call that caused the situation that we're talking about, um, the back was stopped short of the goal line, and they gave him a touchdown.
Yeah,
Um,
it was about like this or so. It was pretty close.
exactly, it was very close, and angle and everything, and who you have to see through, and what can you see. Um,
But
I
I saw,
don't. It wasn't a purposefully wrong call like
no,
some people want to think it was.
Right.
And it wasn't a flagrantly well, you talk about a call that is very costly like that. Um, but those officials, they came from the Fayetteville area.
Yeah, they were down in
Uh,
Sampson County. The one
ex-
guy that called it was for down in, I think, in Clinton or Newton
yep,
Grove or somewhere.
they were
And
all from down in that area. Exactly.
great. That was one of the nicest groups of refs. Very polite, and I thought they did a really good job on that. And you know what? When I was close to the ref when it happened, it looked like from my view it was a touchdown. When I saw it
Hmm.
on the camera later on, I'm like, okay, it was a little bit short, but you can't
Yeah.
fault the refs for that.
Well, I thought it was a touchdown too, but thankfully
Yeah,
I had a good view as I was recording with my camera. So I had a really good view with it. And then when I was able to run the camera back, I was able to see he probably did not. He, like you say,
yeah,
was something like that short, inside of a foot short,
yeah.
um, which that's real. I don't I don't know how in today's game we can correct that kind of situation because if you put reviews in, you got to have cameras at every school because every
And I'm
school has,
against that.
yeah, well, every school has to first of all have the opportunity to be able to have the same capabilities of review. And if you can't do it at all, then you can't do it at any.
Right.
There's those logistics and
And then you also have to train the refs because, I mean, it's not like all of a sudden it's real magical. Everything is going to go fine by having instant replay. You got
yeah.
to teach the refs about what they can consider, what they can't consider, and go from there. It is what it is. But
Yeah, and then you got to hope that the cameras are working, and you're not going to have cameras all over the place like you have in the NFL or in college. That's just not going to. People say we've got all these cell phones. No, you can't use those. They would have to be official cameras that are in place, um, huddle
the,
cameras maybe.
when I looked at that game though, because that was a great game. It was a really fun game. Beautiful stadium. I love that stadium.
It was a great
Uh,
atmosphere.
Great
Oh,
atmosphere. The weather was nice. When I looked at it, Huff, I think, was a little bit more talented than Grimsley, not by much, but a little bit. I think Huff might have played a little bit better than Grimsley, but the big difference is the lady luck. Grimsley had it, Huff did not.
right.
Uh, there was maybe two or three different plays that you could see the luck was on Grimsley's side.
Well, that play right after, as we were talking before 8 o'clock, that play when Huff had it inside the 5 and went for it instead of kicking a field goal.
Right.
And again, Coach Baker says he'd do it again. And if I'm him, I would too. All the parameters he said, yeah, darn straight, I'd do that again.
Oh yeah.
The fact that he didn't get it wasn't the luck. The luck was that very next play that Grimsley ran, and they
Right.
got that big chunk of yards. That's just something that didn't happen a lot of, but it happened at the right time. That was pivotable at that point in the game. That kind of stopped the momentum from. That would have been huge had
Oh
Huff
yeah.
gone up
I
14.
thought Huff. I thought Huff was going to dominate that game in the beginning, and
Well, they
that whole
were.
thing, that luck and momentum, they go hand in hand.
That's right. Luck kicks in momentum. If momentum's not there, you just need one lucky play, and all of a sudden, momentum's on your side. And
And
that,
sometimes momentum begets luck also. And that's the interesting. Sometimes I'll see
yep,
a team that has a lot of momentum. I'm like, they got really lucky on that. They're playing outside their normal capabilities and
right.
just great.
The ceiling dropped for them, so they can reach it
Right.
more, or the floor, moves up, or however you want to look at it. But things happen when you start getting a little bit of momentum that you get a lucky break, a lucky hit. You make a hit that maybe you wouldn't have made, and that causes a turnover.
The ceiling became the roof, but Oh, Michael
Yes,
Jordan saying.
the ceiling became the roof. Yeah.
Yeah, the ceiling is the roof. So
So yeah, that was a great game. I highly enjoyed it, and uh, I don't know if those two are going to meet again in the playoffs. They've met the last two
there's a
playoff
good
runs.
chance. There's a good chance that they might meet up. I mean, anytime I won't say anything from the third round to the fifth or the regional finals, they can meet up again.
Oh yeah, I think so because I think Cuff's going to end up being one of the teams in the West to compete, and I don't see any reason why Grimsley will not be a team to compete. It's just a hard road to get to that point, but it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see when we get to that point. But so we had 8 people. Uh,
Right.
we're down to 4 right now, but and I don't know where everybody is from. Let me get our just in case somebody wants to chat. It's been a while since I've done this. Um, did you log in through the our regular, or did you just follow the link in?
I just did the link in.
Okay. Also, there's Carrie. She's here.
No,
Um,
Carrie, come on in. The price is
yeah,
right.
if Carrie wants to come in, just say so, and you're welcome to come in. I used one of her foot or one of her pictures from this year
Right.
to promote this video or promote this session. So we are on Instagram tonight. We are on YouTube and Facebook Live. We are not on X because X wants to have a premium account. And right now, Jim, I'm just not.
I'm
Um,
not a fan of X.
I'm really I lose every day. I get more and more against X. So I don't know. We're talking preps spaces,
Right.
for the talking. Um, I'd like to find a way to do that on Instagram. Talk to Langston about that, or on Threads. I use Threads more than I use X, um, and I enjoy Threads a lot more. They moderate, and
Right.
I would
Dylan,
think, yeah,
keep on talking. I'm gonna get me something to drink real quick. My throat's
okay.
kind of crazy.
So yeah, I would think from a viewpoint of young people and in a space that they should be in, really don't think X is a space that young people should be doing things. High schools should really consider moving all of their activities off of X because it's a very hostile platform. If you if you let yourself veer just a little bit outside of, say, the sports realm, um, it's very, very, very nasty,
Oh,
racist,
yeah, it is.
anti-Semitic, just the whole violence. It's
Anger. A lot of anger.
anger, a lot of anger. Um, and what I've noticed with Threads is they do moderate that. In fact,
Right.
when you post something, if you make a comment that if you use a word that might be like call it like say somebody's name and then is an idiot, you post something like that. I don't know if idiot is will do it, but things like idiot will. They'll actually pop a dialogue up and say you might want to consider changing this. They don't prevent you. You can go ahead and post it, but they initially are trying to lower that temperature on things. Um, so anyway, I won't go much more on that. I just would like to see more of this activity move over. Don't they do a lot of recruiting stuff on X? See, that's the thing, Carrie. I would like to see that moved.
Right.
I think the colleges will go wherever the kids go.
Huddle's been pretty good in a lot of ways.
Yeah, exactly. There's other places to do this promotion. The whole thing about X or Twitter when it first came out was a place just to make an announcement, broadcast out that something's going on, and maybe you provide a link to where that something's going on. That was the whole purpose of Twitter.
Right.
And not to be this big messaging back and forth platform. It did grow into that, but before the current owner took over, it wasn't too bad to be able to have various groups on and having young people on. But now, you've got kids. Jim, I've had kids follow me that are 12 years old. They're in youth football. And so on the Carolina Varsity account on Twitter, and I guess since they've turned to X, something similar may have happened. Something, a lot of times I'll follow them, but I've had young kids follow, because they're trying, parents are trying to get their names out early, etc. But a 12-year-old on X right now, that's not good. So Carrie's right. They do a lot of the recruiting, but the recruiters are going to go where the kids are posting stuff.
Right.
Well, the colleges are on X as well, but there's two levels to colleges being on X. One is just the university itself or the athletics program posting scores, etc., and they're not really looking at kids. That's not what they're there for. It's the coaches that are there to potentially look at kids, and the coaches check all social accounts.
Oh yeah, they have to.
They have to, exactly. So I think we can move our kids off of X. And Carrie says most of them are on Instagram, which is true. The place that they aren't is Facebook. I won't say aren't. They are not on Facebook nearly as much as they are on Instagram. Facebook's become an old people place. That's what kids tell me. Only old people go there. But Instagram, and of course TikTok, and I don't know. I think with Threads, given a place to be able to post textual content and links to things, Instagram is, and the Instagram Threads is Instagram. If you're not aware, Jim,
Right.
It's Instagram's Twitterish account. So she says she posts most of her pictures on Instagram. I don't know. I'm gonna this year. We're gonna stream out, and I need to see if it's streaming on the Instagram account. I guess I'll check that after we're finished. The Carolina Varsity Instagram account. Jim, but what I wanted to do before we get into anything is let people know how we know the NCHSAA is really, you can tell it's crumbling.
Right.
You made a great point to me earlier in our messaging back and forth, and that was Rick Strunk would reply to our messages sometimes within minutes. And I in the past had requested, say, have somebody new come on and need a media pass. This was back when we had the cards that were printed.
Right.
I have sent Rick an email, and Rick have it in the mail that same day. He'd go print it and put it in an envelope and send it. We've seen when Rick left, I thought James did a great job, but we did see a delay in responses, etc. And I have no doubt that that has everything to do with what was starting to take place, because that was also the same time that the state legislature was meddling in the NCHSAA affairs.
You remember that, don't you, Dale? This picture,
I do.
these cars.
I do. And then today, here we are 2 days away from the Friday night. So, we have some games here in Charlotte tomorrow night, but those are at Panther Stadium, and NCHSAA credentials don't work there.
Right.
But you and I, who had completed our credentials requests weeks ago, still did not have credentials, and we've contacted the NCHSAA and never got a response. Well, finally, I sent another message today, and I got lucky, and you got lucky too, I guess.
Right. Oh yeah, I got
mine got filled, and yours got filled. But what was told to me was, you guys are 2 out of 700, and I'm a one-man operation. Now, there's no doubt that the staff is less.
Oh yeah.
Multi-million-dollar the best operation
Association
in the
effort.
country.
Yeah.
Best association in the country, with bar none. All worked so smoothly. Everything just worked like, pouring water through a pipe, smooth. And now we saw it last year, we saw it the year before, we saw it last year, a little worse, and now kicking off this season, it's even, I would say, worse.
Right.
So there's some people, I've had some guys contact me this afternoon that are over in Shelby. When is my credential? When are my credentials going to be approved? And I told them exactly what we were told. We're one of 700,
Right.
and I got to wonder: does everybody get their credentials throughout the state that is applied?
Yeah, and the thing about it is, it's like you know what private equity is. They'll take over these different organizations, and then all of a sudden they get the majority of the board of directors, or they take care of the board, or take over the board of directors, and next thing you know, they're controlling everything. That's what's kind of pretty much happened with NCHSAA.
Mm-hmm.
It's not private equity; it's the North Carolina State Legislature. And Q Tucker, all the people who work around her, they're great people. They do a great job with the resources they have now. And the problem is they don't have the resources like they used to, just like you said there.
Yep.
And what it's coming down to is one of these us versus them type of moments where people are getting frustrated. And the first thing they want to do is blame the association. But then you have to look at, why is it the association's changed? It's not leadership. They got great leadership inside the association. It's the controlling elements outside the association.
Yep.
And I mean, the North Carolina legislature has no business whatsoever being involved in North Carolina High School Athletic Association, any type of athletic events for high schools.
Well, this is important. This is an election year, people. And our legislature is tearing. If you're watching this, that means you care about high school sports.
Yeah.
And if you care about high school sports, you really should give some serious thought about how your vote's going down, because our current legislature is tearing down our association. Now, Carrie, you say you need 2 letters of recommendation. If you're talking about not getting a credentials without using a Carolina varsity, I'm more than willing to write you a recommendation. I'm sure Jim would too.
Yeah.
But you should at least be able to get your credentials with through Carolina Varsity.
Right.
Have to get a background check and 2 letters. Yeah, so
Backgrounds for everybody. Yeah.
everybody has to get a background check. That's and oddly enough, well, I shouldn't say oddly enough, because something can happen from year to year. Um, and I don't have a problem with background checks, because I I do want the people around the kids to be safe people to be around kids. So we have to get a background check. I think this is the 3rd year of a background check.
Oh, because she's a internet-based photographer.
Yeah, but if
Wait,
you were under Carolina Varsity, it doesn't matter.
right, you can be under our. If you're applying it through like independently for your name, I guess you would have to have the 2 letters.
Exactly. If you're
If you
trying to
do it
do
through
it,
Carolina Varsity, which you're welcome to, wouldn't have to do that.
that's right.
And they come from 2 different places. Oh.
Well, that shouldn't be hard to get. Again, we'll write one, and I'm sure you can get one written from the school. That would be 2, and you should be good to go.
She tried to do
So,
it through Carolina Varsity. That's interesting.
so what problem did you have through Carolina Varsity? Or they're telling you that even through Carolina Varsity, you got to have this? Because none of the other guys have said that.
Hmm.
There's a number of people that have gotten credentials.
Going to ask your athletic director. Okay.
Yeah, so that can definitely be a letter of recommendation, and we'll write one too. Definitely, they wouldn't process it. I don't understand that. You had one last year. I don't understand that, but we'll help you. It doesn't matter. The whole point of talking about this is that some people might think, oh, that's childish. You guys were having a hard time getting your credentials. Well, it's one lens into what's going on. But 2, what helps make the NCHSAA what it is, and it's not media places like us. We're small. It's You've got the TV stations and the papers and all that do a bigger job of exposure. But the way that I look at it is everybody that is providing some bit of exposure, however much it is, makes the whole process more visible and thus more enjoyable for everybody that's taking part in it. So uh, to see a key element of what I would think would be a key media is a key element of any. You go to a university, um, their sports PR is sports information group is just too important, and you can consider us sports information for us being all of media sports information for the NCHSAA. Um, we're kind of like that same body that a university has, that a pro football team has, basketball, football. Um,
Right.
and so it's tearing down, Jim, and that bothers me.
It bothers me too, and I want to say right now, Q Tucker has been under the microscope in so many different ways. She's done a wonderful job, and Q Tucker loves athletics. She does it. She's not a politician. The good thing about Q is that she'll speak her mind, and you know what? Her mind is pretty much exactly how my mindset is, and just like your mindset. It's not about us; it's about the kids. What are you trying to
Hmm.
make it about us? And
Exactly.
well, I'll tell you what, Dale. Are you excited about this year? Because I'll tell you what, there's going to be some good matchups in the 1A, 2A, 3A, and 4A this year.
Well, there's some good matchups this
This
week.
week. Oh,
Right
yeah.
here in Charlotte, we've got some phenomenal matchups. So I am very, very excited. I'm gonna get to see um, several of the state 4A contenders. Um, I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna get to see a big game tomorrow night. Providence Day in Weddington. Uh, we're gonna see Huff in Northwestern. We're gonna see Independence in Myers Park. Um, Man, there's a lot of football happening this week. Roseville and Butler play this week.
Oh, that's going to be a great one.
Exactly. Roseville, uh, Jim, they got to be one of the favorites out of the East, right?
Oh, yeah. They're going to be hunted this year in the East.
They are the hunted.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
Uh,
they're one of them. There's a couple of teams in the East, and they're definitely one of them. I think they're one of the best in the state. So we'll get through that. How you want to do it? You want to go through the matchups this week, or you want to kind of go over the preseason, kind of look at those first? It's up to you,
let's
Bill.
let's do a quick look at the preseason.
Okay.
Bring those up, and we won't talk in depth about them, but let's bring them all up and maybe a
Okay.
quick comment about some of them.
Tell
I
you
think
what.
that'd be better than doing that before looking at the games.
Tell you what I want to do. I want to do a little bit of massaging because I don't want everybody quite to see what I'm doing here. Just take me a few seconds. Always, I'm a big Excel spreadsheet guy, and you know what? I've been that way. It used to be Lotus. You remember Lotus before?
I remember Lotus 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah,
I used
that's what.
Lotus all the time, and
Hmm.
and went to Excel back around '98 or '99. Okay, so tell you what, let's start with the 1As, and I'm gonna share my screen,
Hmm.
and let's see, entire screen. I want to do this
Give me.
right here, and this is my should be my little pigeon scratch here.
All right.
So I'm gonna move this over just a little bit. What I do is I go through all these. I go through the each school and I look at what they got returning, how they did in JV last year, how they did last year in varsity, how they did last year in varsity is your baseline. Find out what they lost. Try to find out what's going on, what's new talents coming in,
Hmm.
and any other changes. Like sometimes if a really good coach retires or somebody maybe last year was a little bit more drama than it should have been, and now you got some stability in the coaching or administrative level, they'll go up. But I'm going to start here in these numbers right here. They're not 100% right. I'll come out with my my top eight from the east and the west.
I'm just gonna make one comment. So
Sure.
anybody that's seeing this wondering why there's more in one column than the other, you should be able to look at that right there without looking at teams and know one's the West and one's the East. All right,
Exactly.
Jim, go ahead.
This is real sloppy. Uh, this is real Jim West, 53-year-old guy. And what I do is I look at them in kind of in buckets. In the West, the bucket is Mount Airy and Mountain Heritage. Be honest with you, I think Mountain Heritage might be the best team in the West. They return just about everybody. They have good talent coming into that program. And another big thing is their head coach for many years, Joey Robinson. This is his last year.
Hmm.
I think that's I can't underestimate or understate how teams can handle or how they would address it during the year. But something big like this, something gets their town a little bit more. But Mount Airy and Mountain Heritage, they're the top. So I'm gonna
Right.
move these guys down a little bit. The next group is kind of all stuck together. Um, I like Murphy quite a bit. Actually, I considered putting Murphy in there with Mountain Heritage and Mount Airy, and have the and M's at the top.
Right.
Murphy, Mount Heritage, Mount Airy. I like Murphy quite a bit. Starmount is returning a lot of talents. They got a lot of youth coming in. They got better numbers than they've had since they went to the state championship against Wallace Rose Hill about 10 years ago and lost that. I think it was the one AA, but Starmount's going to be really good. Robbinsville, I can never dismiss Robbinsville team.
No, you can't.
Swain County, they play in that brutal SMC, the Smoky Mountain Conference. They're going to be tough. They're going to have a veteran team. Eastern Randolph, I think they're going to be better than they were last year. They should have more depth this year. They got some really good athletes coming back. I like Eastern Randolph. Now the boys over in Spencer, North Rowan, this might be the year where they can really make a noise. I can see any of these teams on a given night beating the Mount Airy or Mountain Heritage. I think if you look at them, if everything's equal, these two teams are the best. But these guys right here, I would not sleep on them whatsoever. To me, these guys are the contenders. These guys right here are the favorites.
Right.
And then over here, I'm gonna go probably. I'm gonna separate these guys a little bit.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't stop above Thomasville. But go ahead.
Yeah, Thomasville. They're not going to be quite as strong as last year, I don't think, but they're not to be dismissed. Mitchell loses a lot of. I thought they lost a little bit too much talent, and they should be down a little bit. Mountain Island Charter, that is a team to watch. I might actually have them. Might be underestimating them a little bit. I could see them in this category. Hayesville, you know what? This is going to be the best team in Hayesville probably in a dozen years or so. Those guys over in Clay County, they're going to be fun. And Corvian, I think they return everybody. That's a pretty new program. Keep your eyes out on them.
Right.
And then,
I think most of those, Jim, all of those have a chance to be a top 10.
I agree. I totally agree with you.
Somewhere in that. Now, it'll be around 10, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that range. But they all look like.
These guys right here, any of them could be in the top 8 at any given moment this year.
Right.
Now, these right here are your sleepers. These are the teams that some people might be overlooking. East Wilkes, I'm going to say they're a sleeper. I think they could possibly give Starmount some trouble during the year. Starmount and Mount Airy, I think they're playing sometime in October, whenever. That's going to be a really good matchup. But East Wilkes is a team to look at. Bishop McGuinness, they have a really good quarterback. And I think Bishop McGuinness is a team that might surprise folks. Bessemer City, they're a sleeper. They're going to be really good. And Polk County, I'll tell you right now, I think this is going to be a really special team this year. So,
okay.
Any comments, Dale?
No, I've made my comments. Really, Thomasville's kind of like a long time one of my favorites, and I'd kind of like to see them do well. I agree with, from what I know, most of who you have in groups.
Right.
So yeah, are you going to separate them by 2? No, you're going to drag somebody up.
I'm gonna drag some teams around, but Tarboro is
Right.
your favorite. There's no
Without
way around it.
question. Right.
Tarboro is great. They returned. I think they have three. All their top three runners are coming back. Defense looks great. I know Tarboro would love to play Mount Airy again in the state
Mm-hmm.
championship. That's a possibility. I think Tarboro. I say there's probably a 85, 90% chance Tarboro will get in there. I won't say 100% because you can have all kinds of issues during the season.
Anything can happen, but they're a high favorite. Yeah.
They're a high favorite.
Yeah.
After that, I won't put these next two teams in their own bucket.
Yeah. Wilson
Uh,
Prep really showed some stuff last year, didn't
they did, and they're coming back. They got a buttload of talent. They got depth. Wilson Prep might be, last year I can't remember the second best team last year in the East. Might be someone like Northmore or trying to think who else is really special. I think Rosewood was really good, but I think Wilson Prep would be a stronger number two this year than whoever the number two was last year.
they? Mm-hmm.
Got a lot of talent. East Bladen, tell you what, those guys over Elizabethton and Bladen County, they're going to be really good. The next group, I'm going to separate these four from the rest.
Okay.
Lakewoods down in Sampson County. Lakewood, Rosewood are going to be really good. Same thing with North Duplin. Perquimans, remember this team, and remember how I pronounce it. It's called Perquimans.
Yeah. I'm not sure how other people pronounce it, but
The big one is you have people, even like a couple of counties over, that have never been to the town of Hereford. They call it Perquimans.
Perquimans. Okay.
It's like it's
Don't
Perquimans.
mess me up. Perquimans is how I know it.
Tell you what, we can also go down Jim, Catfish, Hunter.
Yes, sir, baby.
So just remember that.
My boy there, one of my boys.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, 1968, perfect game. From I think from 71 to 75, he had at least 20 games of 20
Hey,
wins. In 1975, he actually pitched 30 complete games out of 39 starts. I mean, that's just unreal. But anyway, I digress.
it's
These
okay.
guys were these guys
I'm a
right here.
fan of his, so you can digress. All right, go ahead.
These guys right here are really good. I don't think any of them have anything to match with Tarboro. I think Wilson Prep and East Bladen. Uh, I think Tarboro can't take either one of those teams lightly. You remember a few years ago, Tarboro had to play Pender, and that game was close. And I think the final score was only like 9 or 10 points apart.
Hmm.
But for a while, Pender was actually leading that game. So, you know, I'm a Jimmy V fan. You know, uh, never give up.
Never
Always
give
keep on
up.
playing.
That's right.
These teams right here, I think, are the sleepers. Northmore lost a lot of talent. Pender, they have a lot of offense. The big question is their defense. You remember that game last year? I think it was like 106 to 83. It was Pender versus Hopton.
Hmm.
We had Coach Eanes on the on our
Oh,
show.
yep.
Great fella.
He was. That was a great interview.
And I'll tell you right now, he's a great coach. Everywhere he's been, he's preached fundamentals. Pender is going to improve on defense. It's by how much. Pender might be able to fall into this group right here. Northampton's lost a little bit. Gates County, I like them. I think they have some pretty good size. So we shall see. Any questions about 1A?
I don't have any. And I can't. We'll just have to. Let me see something, Jim, just to see if anybody had any questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn off the share your screen for just a second. And why am I the centerpiece? Oh, no, don't do this to me. Darn it. Darn it, Jim.
So I can stop sharing for a second. I can share
No,
again.
no. I've turned off the share. You didn't have to stop that.
Okay.
Yeah, I turned off. I would turn it back on.
Okay.
But it's got me. I've lost all my controls over on the right.
1 second. I can see if there's any comments on my side, I think. Maybe.
Yes, if you see anything.
Oh, I have this one. Can you make the spreadsheet bigger, Mr. Jim? You know what? Let me go back up there. I'll make this thing a little bit bigger.
Yeah, and I'll try to share it again. Let me bring it back up, and
Yes.
I'll make sure that I've got it bigger here.
Okay. Tell you what, let's make this
All right.
bigger here. I'm gonna
So
make this like here.
So there we
to-
go. We
All right,
probably, I don't know that we would have any questions. I don't know if we ever get really any questions about 1A. Most of our users are 2A and 3A.
right.
And they're west. So I would say go ahead and go to 2A.
Okay, let's go to two-way here.
Because this is going to be interesting.
This one is, and right now I have Monroe and Shelby as your top two.
Uh-huh.
Right now, I think I might have Shelby a little bit ahead of Monroe. But these two teams are going to be really good.
I agree. I agree.
A little bit bigger here.
Let's just look down the list real quick.
Shelby's got a lot of talents, and Monroe does too. Monroe was a young team last year. Big thing with Monroe, I can't remember if Coach Johnny if he did he retire this last year? I can't even
Yes,
remember.
he did.
I thought so.
Yeah.
The next two I like. Well, I'm gonna expand this a little bit. I'm gonna make it the next four, because these teams right here are special. Reedsville is going to lose some talents. Salisbury has lost some talents. They lost a running back to a actual, I think it's an actual private school in the Charlotte area.
Oh yeah.
Was it Providence Day?
Yeah.
Randleman is really good. They're going to be really good this coming year. And Brevard, I think Brevard is going to be really special. These teams right here are your contenders. I think they are, any one of those teams on any given day could beat Monroe or Shelby. Y'all think Reesville's still going to compete for the state championship in 2A? They're a contender.
I think they're a contender, yeah.
I think they're a contender. They lost some talents, but that team is not a rebuilder. They're a reloader, and they have plenty of talent that's coming in from JV. They also had a lot of depth, and that's one thing about a team with depth. You can lose a player, and if you lose a starter, a lot of times it's not the starter that you have to worry about. It's the reserve that's replacing the reserve that's taken over for the starter. And Reesville doesn't have that problem. They're a deep team. Salisbury has a lot of athletes on that team. They got a really good coaching staff. We shall see what happens with Salisbury this coming year. What y'all think the Firebirds of Southern Nash will do this year? Michael, that's a good question. We will. I'm high on Southern Nash. When we get to 3A, we'll talk about them. I actually have Southern Nash just a tick ahead of Northern Nash, believe it or not. I'm going to the next group here. I'm going to move these down a little bit. The next one, Maiden Chase. Chase, you know what?
I was going to ask you. Yeah, go ahead.
What's your question?
No, I just no, you go ahead, and then I'll make my comment about Chase.
Okay. Chase has a lot of talent. I mean, this is a program that over the years you don't really hear about them being a contender or a sleeper or a dark horse or anything. They have talents. I think that's a program that's on the rise. They're they might dip a little bit from last year. Actually, they should dip a little bit last year. They lost some talent, but I think there can be special. What's your thoughts?
Well, I think they got a really good shot to move into that next group personally,
Right,
but maybe I'm wrong. Forest Hills is another team that I think those Yellow Jackets might. I
right.
don't know if they can. I don't know that they can match next year. I think that's probably a good. I don't know, Jim. For me, this group and the group above it, I think the gap is maybe a little more narrow than it is between your first two groups. But
Oh, I totally agree with you on that. So these teams right here are somewhat interchangeable. There might be a
hmm
little bit of separation. Reesville, with depth. Salisbury, just total athletes.
yeah,
Rhineland, it's a lot of experience. Brevard, a lot of experience. And then you get these teams like here with Maiden. Maiden, they should have more experience than they did last year. Last year they were a little bit. They struggled a little bit last year. It was they lost to Bunker Hill for the first time. I don't know how many years. Chase, they lost a little bit of talent, but I'll tell you what, they got the coaching. Forest Hill lost a lot of talent, but they also have a pretty strong pipeline.
right.
That pipeline was out for about, I'm gonna say, for about a period of 4 or 5 years. Right, for whatever reason, the going, I guess, from middle school to JV and to varsity wasn't working quite as right for Forest Hills. It's fixed now. I like that. And Burns, I think you know what, Burns could actually move
Uh
up right
huh.
here. And you know what, Burns, when they play Shelby, they could beat Shelby. They beat Shelby a couple of times, so
Exactly.
they know
Burns
how
is a
to do it.
dangerous team.
Right.
I think always every year I always have to give them thought because that whole county, that's your best football county in the state, in my opinion.
Oh, I think so. I mean, you got Kings Mountain, you got Shelby, you got Crest, you got Burns. The team in the East that's not as, or the county in the East that's not as big, that rivals them to me, is down in Duplin County, where you have
hmm
Wallace, Rose Hill, James Cannon, East Duplin, and North Duplin. Uh, one other county that I like, and I'm one of the counties I'm thinking about moving to is Nash County. I was thinking about possibly moving over to somewhere in western Nash County eventually. It's off of 64, maybe near probably Spring Hope or somewhere. But I think Nash County is a good place to live, but they also have four really good football programs.
Right.
Now, this next group here, West Lincoln, Bunker Hill, Community School Davidson, East Gaston, West Stokes. These teams right here, these are your sleepers. These right here are dark horses right now that could be contenders and at one time might even be favorites. But right now, dark horses. These guys are here are sleepers. West Lincoln, you know what? It seems like every year, the last 4 or 5 years, they overperform.
hmm
I think last year, Alan and Jeff, I think they might have had them picked last in their conference. I can't remember where they finished. They're maybe tied for second or third or something. Had a good season. Bunker Hill, I mean, last year they were undefeated in the regular season. Went to Reesville, played Reesville really good. Beat Monroe in I think it was the fourth round. They had
It
the
was a
talent.
big
They lost.
surprise for me. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Monroe last year, they had the talent that was coming along. They just didn't have the experience to beat Bunker Hill. Bunker Hill this year, they lost. They lost some numbers, but this program I will not dismiss whatsoever. I think this is a team that's going to surprise people. They could possibly beat Maiden. I mean, it's West Lincoln same way. Community School of Davison, that's a good program. It really shocks me how much they've improved over the last few years. It's the same thing with East Gaston right
East
now. East
Gaston. Yeah.
Gaston is a team that just really you cannot dismiss. You cannot dismiss East Gaston this year. A few years ago, I'd laugh at me by saying that, but something is going right in East Gaston. Or is East
Yeah.
Gaston Is that Mount Holly? I can't remember.
Yeah, they had a number of down years.
Right.
Since their was it 2006, they had a really 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 good year. But then East Gaston really struggled for a number of years. So to see them all of a sudden, they kind of jumped back on the scene in a big
Right.
way. So,
And there are some teams that are not listed right now. I'm going to tell you right now, 2A West is deep and wide. There's other teams that I could list. I'm just picking the ones that kind of caught up eyes as sleepers. Now let's go to the East here, and I'm almost willing to bet a couple of these teams in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 up here 1 and 2. But right now I think Northeastern, Wallace Rose Hill, your best teams. Wallace Rose Hill returns a lot of talent. Northeastern, to me, it's like it's almost like the LA Rams back in the late '90s, the best show on turf. Except I don't think they play on turf down in Elizabeth City, but that's a great team, great coach. Wallace Rose Hill, great team, great coach. Both great programs. These are your teams to watch in the East. These are your two favorites. Now, this right here is a little bit different. The contenders, I'm going to probably put these next 6 teams all together. Nash Central, Southwest Edgecombe, I like these teams a lot. I like East Duplin. I think those teams, East Duplin's, they've been to a few state championships. Did they beat Reidsville last year in the state championship? Or was it the year before? I can't remember. I can't remember. All these years run together. But they've been to the state championship a couple of times. They lost to High Brighton in one day. It was I think it was in around 2017 or so. It was snowing or 2016. It was snowing or 2016 or 2017. It was snowing in the morning, and then I drove to Wake Forest. It was like 52 degrees and sunny. So it was a weird day. But these guys right here are dangerous. These teams here can beat Northeastern, Wallace Rose Hill. Quinton is the one team that's a little bit suspect of this group. They're going to be lacking experience. They have a regime change over there. I think they're going to struggle out of the gates, but come November, December, they're going to be a team to be reckoned with. They're going to be running all 8 cylinders. Farmville Central down in Pitt County, these guys they're loaded for bear. They're obviously, a lot of times they're overlooked by the Roses and the Conleys of Pitt County. West Craven is always overlooked. How would you like to be the third fiddle to New Bern and Havelock?
War Eagles, is that right? They're Eagles, right?
Something like that. I think they're Eagles. They have a lot of athletic talent, though. Now, the next group here, I'm going to separate these guys a little bit. I'm going to probably just break them in half right now. Whiteville, Princeton, Eatonton Holmes, and St. Paul's. I like these teams for different reasons. St. Paul's, good coaching. I always like them on in the trenches. I think they're a physical team. Holmes has got great coaching. Paul Hoggard and Wes Matera, those guys, they take a lot of pride down in Eatonton. Princeton is a team that for a long time they were a 1A team. They moved up to 2A, and they've become a pretty strong team. Whiteville's a team that's kind of bounced back and forth between 1A and 2A. They're going to have a lot of talent this year. They play in that 1A. I can't remember. They still play in that 1A, 2A conference with. I think they do with South Columbus and some of the Robinson County teams. Whitefield to me is probably the best of that group, although St. Paul's might have something to say about it. Now, these other teams right here, these are all for different reasons. Eastern Wayne, I think they have the talent this year and the experience. Southwest Onslow, talent and depth. Southeast Alamance, they only had 2 seniors on the whole roster last year. They're returning virtually their whole squad. They are powerful. Be honest with you, they're probably going to have close to 3A numbers in that school. Tony Aguilar is their head coach. Great mind, one of the nicest guys. So one of my mentors in my business world, his wife knows Tony, and every time she sees him, he speaks to her and also remembers the 2 kids that he taught. Their 2 kids. So special man. James Keenan, I like them. I think they have a good combination of talent, coaching, and athleticism, and depth should be better too this year. So these teams right here are kind of your sleepers. I did see Kerry left a message about Newton Conover. It's a sleeper. You could bet Newton Conover is a sleeper. They're in their bunch there. I saw some people that think Lincolnton might be in there. I could agree with that. Pisgah, I think, seen some people. Well, Pisgah's 3A now. Is Pisgah 3A or 2A? I can't remember. But there's about probably 6 or 8 other teams you could throw in there. Heck, if you want to be desperate, you could put North Stanley in there. I graduated from North Stanley, so I'm not trying to put my comments down, but I just had to pick 5 teams. I left some teams out, but not on purpose. So I'll tell you what, any questions about 2A?
No, I agree with them. I will just say that it's always good to see Farmville Central whenever they do well.
Oh, I like them.
So hopefully they have a good season this year.
And that's the thing about it is we like having good seasons throughout the state because it makes our lives easier because you get more fans involved, more people that want to talk about these certain schools and athletes they see. Now, this right here is going to be a fun one. Hickory returns a lot of their talent. I mean, they return a lot of talent. They have a lot of depth. They have a lot of coaching. And they also have a lot of rings from their 3A state championship last year. Hickory and Dudley are the cream of the crop. Last year, Hickory beat Dudley. I think the score was 42-41. I don't have it off top in front of me. I think that was the score. Dudley returns a lot of talent. They're going to be a team that knows how to move the ball, but also they're a team that can play some really good defense. Dudley, over the last several years, sometimes their defense will have laps, but a lot of times it has to do with the offense. If you have a powerhouse like Hickory that knows how to move the ball, or I think a few years ago when Dudley beat Rose in the state championship, Rose knew how to move the ball. I think it was something like 69-56 in the 3A state championship that year. It was a crazy score, but these 2 teams are your top ones. If I had to give an edge, I'm going to give Hickory just the slightest edge right now. The next one is a 3-headed horse. Oh, I did it wrong here.
You can just drag it.
Yeah, but that's too much. That's too easy. So here, AC Reynolds, they have a lot of talent coming back. They also have a very good home field advantage. If they get a really good seed during the playoffs, it's hard for a team in the Piedmont to go up to Fairview and win a game. They're going to be special. Crest is going to be special. I've had people ask me who's better between Crest and Shelby, and I'll tell them, I was like, you know what? Anything could happen in that game. I would have no idea. Shelby's a 2A school. Crest is a 3A school. Both of them are very special. They're going to be really, really. That would be a very good game. Uh, these teams are in here for different reasons. I think AC Reynolds, their depth is going to be is going to help them out. Crest, I think they're still working on their depth. I think they should have enough depth to compete. They could knock off a Hickory or a Dudley. Charlotte's, I mean, West Charlotte's, they're they're a powerful team, and I think Coach Sam is one of the best motivators in the states. And
So West Charlotte's not just a powerful team; they have the most talent in the area. Period. And
yeah,
that's coming from other coaches. West Charlotte is my pick to win it all.
oh wow,
Oh,
one thing
they're going to be extremely good this year. If
one
they're
thing
not, it's going to be injury that causes it.
the one thing I want to look at with West Charlotte, and I think it's their strength. They know how to play defense. They're a fundamentally sound defensive team. The thing about it is with high school football, whenever you see a team that knows how to play defense and play it consistently, that's a fun team for me to watch. And it's a team that can win championships. I'm with you right there. West Charlotte can uh, definitely be right now. I have them as contender. You obviously have them as one of the favorites.
Well, see, there's a number of kids that weren't on the team last year that are on the team this year.
That's good to know.
Like a kid from South Point in Rock Hill, who when he showed up, he asked Coach Griner, "What's the rushing record here? Because I'm gonna break it." And that's some mighty big talk considering
Yeah, you
the
got that right.
the running backs that West Charlotte has had. However, the kids, Sam says it's the second best running back he's ever had, and of course he had the number one player in the nation back when he was at Harding. He had the number one player in the nation. So this kid's not better than him, but so yeah, keep that in mind. They've got a lot of new talent there to go with their, moving up, all their elevating players, junior to senior, sophomore to junior, etc.
Right.
Crest is, I think, going to be very good as well. Yeah, Crest versus Shelby. This year it might be Crest. You might say it almost open-handed, but that's a big rival, so it's hard to make that call. Go ahead, Jim. Move on. I won't talk anymore.
So these guys are here, the contenders. I'm going to go to the dark horses now, and I'm going to move these teams up. Northwest Cabarrus, a long time I always thought about the Battle of the Bell between A.L. Brown and Concord.
Mm-hmm.
Northwest Cabarrus to me is better than those two programs right now.
Oh no, unfortunately, no doubt. When I say unfortunately, it's sad to see what has happened to Brown and Concord.
Right.
But
I agree.
Power has to cycle. Other people have to be the dominant people, and I mean that's good for high schools, but the drop has been pretty tremendous, unfortunately.
I knew Pisco was a 3A school. I was thinking, that one time they were a 2A school, and I was like, it always takes me a few years to get used to the new realignment. We're going to go to another one next year. East Lincoln, they have a lot of talent back. They were a young team last year. Now they have experience. They have more depth. They have a strong pipeline. Watch out for East Lincoln. And Oak Grove, Oak Grove, they took that's a program over in Davidson County. I guess they took some of the overload over at North Davidson and probably over at Ledford. And Oak Grove has a really good talent base. And Oak Grove is kind of interesting. North Davidson used to be the best team in Davidson County. better than, I mean, because North Davidson has the larger numbers than Thomasville, but Oak Grove to me has more talent now than any other Davidson County school. Kings Mountain, they're not going to be as strong this year. I know that might upset some guys over in Cleveland County. I think the realist will agree with me on that. Whereas Oak Grove, if you're familiar, I guess between what Welcome, which is near like the top of Davidson County, going towards Winston Salem, somewhere between Welcome to maybe Thomasville. It's not that far from Thomasville, Lexington, and so forth.
Exactly.
Oak Grove's been around. I think this is maybe their fifth or sixth year in existence. West Henderson is a team that I like them in the mountains. They've seemed like the last 3 or 4 years they've gotten their act together and their pipeline seems to be strong. So I give a lot of emphasis. If you have a good JV team that has success, a lot of times that success does more chance than not it does bleed over to varsity, but not all the time.
Hmm.
And then you have some teams like Charlotte Catholic. They played JV back in the '80s, and I think when I was in North Stanley, we had probably beat them three out of 4 times by 20 points, and then by the time they're varsity, they were beating us by 20, 30 points. So there's, every program has its differences when it comes to developing talent. Catholic's one of those teams that know how to develop talent. The next part right here, I know that there's some teams left out. It wasn't intentional. I see. I do think I see Gary was on there just a little bit ago about Statesville. Statesville is definitely a team that's a sleeper. I right now with Statesville is one of those I want to see. I want to get more information. I just don't have enough information about Statesville at this point to really give a good clear idea. Statesville to me is a team that's probably going to be somewhere around North Lincoln's area, possibly as high as up into where East Lincoln is. But it's going to be they're going to have a good season. South Point, I think they will be better. I just don't think they have the overall depth, and especially on defense to be much more than a dark horse. Right now, I have them listed as a sleeper. This next one right here, Dale, this is not for you, believe it or not. I just liked what I saw, the fundamentals of my research on West Meck. We shall see. This is a team that could shock us. I'm going to put them on the list right now. If they go 3-7, obviously I was wrong, but there was something about West Meck that showed me that they could be legit this year. Then I got a couple of mountain teams, Pisgah and Irwin. I think Irwin will be a lot better this year, and Pisgah's they're going to the guys in Canton could have a really special season this year.
See, the problem for West Meck is that in conference they only have one hope of winning one game, and that's Harding.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It'll surprise me if they are in the top 15 of teams.
Gotcha.
But surprise me. That's ain't gonna hurt my feelings.
Does West Meck play in a 3A 4A conference with Harding's 3A now, aren't they? Or
yes, they are.
So it's Harding and West Charlotte are 3As along with West Meck.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know the numbers. No, I won't get into that right now. Go ahead.
They play in the same conference with Hopewell and North Mac.
Yeah, let me make sure nothing's changed. Let me put that back up. By the way, it is West Craven Eagles. I don't know why I thought War Eagles, but
Davie County is War Eagles.
Well, Davie County is the War Eagles. Yeah, that's. I guess that's why War Eagles was on my my mind. I'm not sure, but yeah, they're. If
you want to have some fun, let's.
Yeah, so They're in conference with North Mecklenburg, West Charlotte, West Mecklenburg, um, West Rowan. Is this
Well,
right?
West Rowan's in their West Rowan should
This
be in
can't
there.
be right.
Yeah, that can't be right.
Well, that's what it's saying, though. I looked at standings and
Oh,
full standings. Excuse me. I've got. I don't know what they were showing me because I'm like, where's Hopewell and Mallard Creek and Huff and all the other guys. What is West? It's not. So Chambers. You know what? Harding's not there. Harding is there. Yeah, Harding's going to be their only. I don't want to say that, but I think that's the only win that's a sure win
right.
because they got to face West Charlotte, North Mecklenburg, Mallard Creek. Now I don't know about Hopewell.
Yeah.
Hopewell, Hopewell might be a chance too. Hopewell, West Mecklenburg, and Harding are probably the bottom three in the conference.
Right.
Uh, so yeah, they might could win two. They might could win two conference games. I'm gonna let you keep going though, because I don't want
Okay.
to talk about West Mecklenburg.
So I'll tell you what, we'll go to the east. We're going to move we're going to move everybody down for now. 71st, they went to the state championship. They lost to Hickory in a very good 3A state championship game last year. 71st, they return a lot of players, just like Hickory does, and same thing Dudley. They're going to be a player.
They're
Havelock
my pick.
was
They're my pick from the East.
they're
Go
right now
ahead.
they are too. Havelock to me is in this maybe just a teeny bit down or not down, but below 71st, but not a lot of separation between those two. Havelock has a lot of depth. They're gonna be physical, and also Caleb King is their head coach, who was their former head coach at one time. Now he's head coach again. He and Alan Wooten traded places. Then I'm going to put everybody else or the next group here. And
Mm-hmm.
this right here is going to be a fun group here. Southern Nash, Northern Nash are really good. Jacksonville, I like them a lot. Cape Fear, they're going to be really good. Williams is a team that I think they could really sneak up on everybody. Don't be surprised if Williams wins their conference and might be like 9-1 going into the playoffs and get a couple of home games. They're a team that I think they're a contender. Do I think they're going to win it all? No, but they're the best team in Alamance County right now. Of course, I say that Southern Alamance is going to say something about that.
Right.
The next group is going to be these three right here. Scotland, Southern Durham, Southern Alamance. All these teams are. First thing, I like the guys over in Larberg. Richard Bailey is a great coach, better man. Southern Durham, gentleman, Coach Robinson. Robinson over at Southern Durham, great fellow. Southern Alamance, they have a lot of talent. They had a lot of drama last year. Their coach Fritz Hesenthaler was let go in early November last year, and I think it took the wind out of their sails. But Southern Alamance has a lot of talent, a lot of depth. Let's see how they respond to the adversity they experienced last year. The next group here is going to surprise some people. I got some teams in here that are actually just about everyone on here except for Western Alamance and Vance County. Vance County, Western Alamance, these are probably your most bona fide sleepers. Person is a team that I like. This is going to be one of the better Person teams, in my humble opinion. Down in Wilson, Hunt, and Fike, they got a lot of talent returning. Rocky Mount last year, they went 3-7. They will, I think they'll at least flip it to go 7-3 this year. They have a lot of talent coming back. They should have better depth. They're not going to be quite as good as they were in the 2015-16 years, but keep an eye on that. But right now, I'd say between these two teams right here, I think there's probably I'm going to say probably a 75% chance one of these two teams are going to win it all in the 3A East.
I agree with that. And one thing that I'm going to be watching, though, not to be, I think they're outside. It's a very outside shot that they would be playing in the regional finals. But Scotland is a team I'm going to be watching this year.
They go into overdrive come November.
Right. And they play tough competition, um, tough conference. So I don't think it's going to be surprising if they make it into the top three, but I think they could maybe by the end of the year be somewhere in that 5-3 range. I'm
Right.
just going to be watching them to see.
Same
Um,
here.
I think what you've got here is solid, though. Yeah.
So let's go to the 4A. I'm going to make the screen a little bit bigger here. And this is interesting here. I've been doing some kind of moving and shuffling. I've done some moving things around here. I want to make it a four-headed monster in 4A West, and that's more out of respect to. Gosh, I have a lot of teams here listed in 4A West. Some of these are just kind of overkill, but there's just a lot of talent in 4A West.
Right.
Grimsley, Weddington, Independence, and Huff.
I agree.
At one time, I was thinking about keeping Huff in the next contenders, but I think they're a favorite. I think this is a team that's really good. Independence might be the best of them all. Weddington has probably the best confidence and got good experience. Grimsley, they are loaded with athletes. Grimsley and
So
Huff,
see,
I think they're pretty close. Go ahead.
Weddington's got a lot of talent as well, a lot of D1 talent. So
Right.
um,
Deep.
I think that's a solid top four right there. All four of those are going to be playing late in the playoffs. In fact, those were the final four playing in the West. We had Huff and Grimsley, we had Independence and Weddington. Final four, no, they weren't. That was 1 week prior, but no, that's right. Is that right? So your Independence, Butler, Independence, Weddington wins and goes forward to the regionals. So yeah, I think that's a tough four-headed monster right there, Jim.
Yeah, it's this. And the thing about it is, the 4A West is just deep. And I like Watauga, East Forsyth, Butler, and I'm gonna throw. Actually, I'm just gonna keep the three here. These are, to me, your major contenders. Watauga. Some people are gonna say Watauga is always going to be a sleeper. Watauga has a lot of depth. They're going to be really good this year. East Forsyth, they're one of the better teams. They're probably the second best team in the triad after Grimsley. Butler had a regime change. Obviously, Coach Hales is
More than just Coach Hales, though.
yeah. It's a lot
It's
of
it's a whole swap out of staff, basically.
right. I will say
So
this about Butler: they have a lot of talent. I think they could be really special, or they can really struggle this year. I think they might struggle at the beginning of the season.
see, I think in your list there, I'd probably swap Mallard Creek and Watauga.
Oh
Uh,
wow!
and maybe yeah, there's some thought Mallard Creek's going to have a pretty good year. I don't know. I don't know if Mallard Creek's going to be able to do that. But anyway, I don't know, Jim. For me, it's hard to see Watauga making it deep in the West, and the only way they make it, they're going to be undefeated probably going into the playoffs.
Right.
That's almost, without even looking at their schedule, that's almost a given. Um, so that's going to give them a lot of home games, but somebody's going to come from down here and go up there and beat them. So
Right.
I'm just going to tell you now that's going to happen. All right, go ahead. East Forsyth, yeah, that's going to be a good one to watch.
Right. The next four here it's hard to imagine anybody calling Mallard Creek or Charlotte Catholic a sleeper because they have rings. Myers Park, I mean, they've had a lot of experience in the playoffs. Mount Tabor, but everything is relative on any given year. These are the teams right here that I think maybe people are not giving them quite as much attention as they should. Mount
Well,
Tabor to me is the third best team to try on.
Charlotte Catholic is a regime change too. Um,
Right.
so it's hard to think that Charlotte Catholic's a sleeper normally, but knowing what I know about what's going on here, that's not that's not a surprise to see them at that point. But really, I think you're going to have to judge a Charlotte Catholic, especially third week of the season, then start judging them. Um, they're going to need a couple of weeks to get some things under their belt, just as Butler's going to need a few weeks.
Right. The sleepers are the ones that I have a lot of them listed here. I got 16 teams listed as sleepers. Some of them I think you can pretty much dismiss. I'm gonna take these these right here. I'm gonna just take them away from this because I don't. I think I pretty much right now just I can't bet them in sleeper land. These teams
I
right
don't know now, Sun Valley maybe, but okay, yeah, it's okay.
here. Yeah,
This is your list, not mine. But
yeah, I got
let's
you.
let's
I got
let's
you.
look at the ones you got there.
So Chambers, I think they could be. They're going to have coaching. They got athleticism. They got talent. They have depth. Can they put it all together this year? If they do, Katie barred the door. But right now, I just don't think they can match up with Huff or Mallard Creek. And actually, I think they might struggle against West Charlotte. I think they might maybe the
Well,
fourth best.
honestly, I think the conference is going to come down to West Charlotte and Huff. But
Okay.
I'm going to say something about Chambers, and if you think about this, I'm sure you'll agree. Ever since that school, the school was Vance first. Ever since that school's been around, they've been good.
Yeah, they've had
They have
talent.
been they have been solid. When we say good, I'm not talking 6-5. I'm talking about winning. Winning seasons, big time winning seasons,
Yeah,
big
going
time
third, fourth
athletes.
round of the playoffs. And
Yeah, big time hitters, big linemen, athleticism out the nose. They got a great player in another Concepcion.
see, Vance has always had some of the best coaching in the states, year after year after year. I mean, when did they start? 97, I believe.
Somewhere in '90, I thought they opened. Didn't they open the same year that Butler opened?
They
Was it?
did.
Yeah, so that's '99. Was it?
99, okay.
I think that's right.
Well,
'99.
was Barry the first coach at Vance?
Yes. No, at he was at Butler. The
Butler, okay.
first coach at Vance. Who was the first guy? I don't remember right now. I have to think about that.
They've always had really good coach. Same thing with Butler. They've always had good coaching. Um,
Yeah, Butler's got a former Chambers coach who won state championship. So while they have a regime change, they do have a coach that's got experience at winning. So
right.
um, I don't know. Chambers I think might have some youth issues. So putting them where you've got them right now, they're going to have to prove themselves. They've got athletes to prove themselves, but as a team, cohesive and all those other things. They have to prove themselves.
And I like Mooresville quite a bit too. I struggled about possibly putting them up in the dark
Yeah,
horses. I mean, there's a Mooresville, they could go undefeated in the regular season. I think they went. They go undefeated. I think they went undefeated last year in the regular
I
season.
think so, or lost one, but I think they went undefeated.
I think
That's
they
the
were
other.
undefeated. I think Blake Norman lost one, and that happened to be Mooresville.
Yeah, that's their contender in
Yeah,
conference.
Mooresville, I think is. It's hard to put Lake Norman and Mooresville the same group because I think there's definitely a separation between the two. Same thing with A.L. Brown. So I might, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put, the more I think about it, I think I'm gonna put Mooresville up here, and I just like having them in the. Gary
Separated.
Finger. Gary Finger was the inaugural head coach of Vance.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott. So the rest of these teams, TC Roberson, I mean, down in Skylands, they could have a really good team. Providence, I tell you what, this could be a
I'm
really
gonna
promising season for them.
I'm gonna tell you what. They're going to win their conference, or they're going to come close. It's good. I think it's going to come down. Um, well, right now, I think they got a shot. Let me say that. I think they're going to be better than a lot of people predict. I think they're going to be better than Morse. I
Okay.
don't. I don't know if they have the ability to be a top 10 team. Is going to. I don't know. Uh, but all you have to do is take a little time
Right.
and watch what they're doing on they post a lot on Twitter. I got to give them credit. They're doing a fantastic job of promoting themselves, and they've got all the team types of things you would want a team to do as a team. Just looking at things from a team concept, not a athletes and all that other stuff, but from an organization of a team and how they present themselves, how they act, all that stuff. They've got all that nailed down like a championship team. And they've got a lot of talent. So this is going to be
Right.
one of their best years, I think.
Good.
Um,
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
you
They
remember
need.
them going down to Richmond and beating Richmond in the playoffs, and
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Oh
so
yeah.
this is going to be maybe a team of that caliber, or better.
That's awesome. That's good. That's good for. It's good for not just for Providence, but also for Charlotte. I mean, for so the one thing about Mecklenburg County, you don't have to worry about the county being top heavy. You got seven
Hmm.
or eight teams on any given year that will be at the top. So glad to see Providence in the mix. Like Norman L. Brown, they're kind of just a step behind Mooresville. Marvin Ridge, Reagan,
So,
these two teams are sleepers to me.
so Weddington's arch rival. Um, Weddington always has that. That's a great game always, and
Oh yeah,
um, man, it's I don't know. I think you got them in the right place for today.
right.
It's going to be interesting to see if they can nudge themselves up the list. And I'm talking about Marvin Ridge.
Right.
There's the problem is there's so many good teams, and then there's teams below this that can give you problems. Sun Valley, Porter Ridge, Ardrey Kell, maybe
Yeah.
West Forsyth, um,
I even
Davie
have North Beck up
County.
there.
Yeah, I see you got North Mech there, so that'll be interesting to see if
Yeah.
that's putting them somewhere in the top 30, top
Oh yeah.
25 maybe. So that'd be
One thing.
interesting.
One thing I'll say about those teams that are sleepers, if you're a sleeper, you want to go ahead and have momentum today as opposed to waiting until November. You might have a team like Jordan High School that kind of sometimes goes sleepwalks through the regular season and gets hot and goes to Newbern and
Hmm.
almost beats them. But you want to move or you want to start strong and get stronger. So
Yeah, your problem's going to be being probably that kind of team is you don't want to accumulate too many losses because that's going to hurt you playoff wise and put you up against those powerful teams early.
Right.
So win your games when you can. Um,
Experience. Great.
A.L. Brown. You think A.L. Brown's going to be able to crack 20 this year? Top 20?
I think they will. I think they have the. I think they have better numbers this year than they've had in the past. I think that they will possibly become second in their conference. I think they're right now they're a step behind Mooresville, but
Mm-hmm.
we shall see. I mean, that's who's the coach over there is Coach Harden.
Yeah, yeah,
Second year, the
yep.
son.
Uh-huh. He has two
And
sons, and yeah, he played at Brown. He coached over at
so
Charlotte Latin.
a lot of pride in coaching your alma mater. Now,
Yeah.
East is going to be real interesting. I have it as a two-headed monster. This shouldn't shock anybody. Roseville and Cardinal Gibbons. Cardinal
No,
Gibbons is just good.
absolutely
Just
not. I think Roseville's probably the best team in the East, and Cardinal Gibbons is right there at the nipping on the heels.
exactly. And the next group here, I like Cleveland, Hoggard, Pinecrest, Leesville Roads, and I'm actually throwing Laney in there. That's going to surprise people. But Laney has
See.
numbers.
Uh-huh.
They have talent coming back. They got a pretty good pipeline. For a long time, it was New Hanover County, New Hanover High School. It's always been Hoggard, and New Hanover was really strong. New Hanover might be waning a little bit, and Laney's kind of picking it up quite a bit. Laney had a good season last year. They were deceptively good last year, and I think they're going to pick up. I think they're going to be even better than they were last year. Cleveland has a lot of talents, a lot of leadership across the board. Hoggard's Hoggard. They're a team that knows how to play defense. Pinecrest is a fun place to. Southern Pine's a great place to watch a football game, but Nick Eddins he used to be at West Montgomery, ended up at Crest. Now he's at Pinecrest. He's got the program in the right direction. Leesville Road, great program, great place to watch a game. And Laney, these to me are your contenders. Step behind these two, but still in striking range. And now I'm going to separate these guys a little bit more. I'll start with the dark horses. Millbrook might beat a team like Leesville Road. Millbrook and Wake Forest, they're in the same conference. They play in kind of that northern Wake County conference with Wakefield, Heritage. Who's the other teams? Nightdale and some other team. Oh gosh, there's 6 teams in there total. I can't think of the other one right now. But that's Millbrook's going to be really special. Wake Forest is going to be really special. This is going to be one of the better teams that had Wake Forest since their championship run from about 6 years ago. Jordan has the athletes. Do they have the depth to make a good run? That's the question mark with me with Jordan. Clayton lost a lot of talent, but they have excellent coaching. You know who coaches at Clayton, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, and that's I think that's probably a reason to think that I think they'll quickly step up into that next group. He's a
I
great
think
coach. If he'd have stuck around here in Charlotte a little bit longer, he might have gotten Myers Park to a championship. But yeah,
As I always say, your hindsight's 20/20 unless you're cross-eyed, then it's 40/40.
right.
So the next group here, Gardner, Holly Springs. Holly Springs had a really good season last year. Gardner was young, but I'll tell you what, they were kind of average last year. I saw them go into Millbrook. They were down like I think 19 points and came back to win that game.
Uh-huh.
That Garner team is the most physical team I saw the whole year last year.
Yeah.
Not talented, but physical. And
Uh-huh.
there's a difference between talent and physicality. Raw physicality with them. The talent, the size wasn't there, but they're going to be better. They're going to be stronger this year. Holly Springs, they have a lot of athletes on that program. I'm kind of waiting to see how their youth, how their JV players from last year play on varsity. Richmond County was a real young team last year, and I would bet them up in the dark horses, except for one thing that Brian Till is no
Coaching
longer their
change.
head coach. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to be interesting to see if if they can, if they finish, if this was a ranking and finish and they finish that high, that would still be, might be better than I would have predicted, but
then you got.
which is, that's hard to believe we even say that these days about.
I mean, that's what happens when you have we were 5-5 in the regular season. I think they went five
Well,
and six. They lost to Leesville Road in the playoffs. And
it's what happens when your population just
doesn't keep up with the rest of the state
doesn't,
for one
it
thing.
doesn't keep up with the rest of the state. Exactly.
So one county school. So Middle Creek, they're going to be around. They could surprise. They could go 7-3. They might bomb. They might go 4-6. But they're a sleeper. Heritage, they're, to me, they're a step behind Millbrook and Wake Forest. But I'm
Hmm.
putting them in there. Friendship and Middle Creek. They're kind of uh, they're both from basically the outskirts of Apex. They're the teams that are going to be competing against each other. That's going to be a good rivalry game. So that's it from my end.
Yeah,
Any
let's see if
questions?
I'm just going to see if we got any questions from anybody. Thoughts on Providence Day versus Weddington. Okay, we're going to be talking about that in just a moment. Um, and so, yeah, let's look at some games. It's a big game tomorrow night that I will be at.
Which game are you going to then? It's tomorrow night. Then it's
Yeah. So that's Weddington and Providence. So are you bringing up Max Preps?
actually I was going to see if I can pull it up on the NCHSAA so I don't have to listen to all that music and stuff.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm
But
going to
they
see if
do
I
have
can.
they have all the games of this week, next week, this Thursday and then Friday. They have them segmented out.
Oh, you know what? This is actually might work for me here. Let's see if I can get
I think that
some.
page doesn't have much video on it. If it has any, I don't know.
It doesn't have anything. At least I don't think it does. Let me
I
pull it
haven't
up
been on it
here.
this year, so I don't know.
Let's see
I've
here.
just been on the team
Orders.
pages. That's it.
All right. Hopefully it'll start showing up in a second.
I think Indy is the best team in the Charlotte area. What do y'all think? And he says, besides PD. Um, Personally, I had Indy last year as the best team in the state. They kind of had a hard start to the season. This year's team is going to be better than last year's team. Um, Last year's team was really good, but they couldn't stand toe to toe with Weddington. So when we say the Charlotte area, we got to include Weddington. Um, and we look at it in two ways. Do we include all teams, which means including private schools, or do we just talk about public? So Providence Day has the potential to be the best team in the state. Now they'll have to play it out to prove that. But if we set Providence Day aside, because they are a little bit different animal, Providence Day doesn't have the depth that an Indy has. Indy is definitely one of the best teams, Jalen. And I think they'll win their conference. I think they got a good shot of going undefeated. And I think they got a good shot of playing in the regional finals. So I wouldn't be surprised if they meet Weddington again. All right, Jim, you got, I see you got it up.
So here we go. Let me make this screen bigger so everybody can see a little bit better.
Yeah, we got two big games tomorrow. I think
here we go.
Two good key indicator games tomorrow.
Independence Myers Park. That's going to be really good. What I really want to see on this is how good Myers Park is this year. I'm pretty sure I know how good Independence is. I want to see how strong Myers Park is. Weddington, Providence Day is going to be great.
Yeah, so I think the Independence Myers Park game, that's Indy's win. And a number of people think it's going to be an Indy blowout. So I don't know about that, but I would not be surprised because Indy is that good.
I will say between 14 to 20 point Indy game.
Yeah, that's probably, I mean, I've heard 21, 28 points. And I'm talking about some of our talking preps crew. And then, of course, the big game is going to be Weddington and Providence Day. There's going to be more D1 talent on that field. There's going to be enough D1 talent on that field to say it's like two freshman college teams going against each other or something. The big thing about this game will be that Weddington is huge in depth, and Providence Day is not. And I don't. Do you remember back when Mallard Creek was in their run, and they played Charlotte Christian? It was at Memorial Stadium. I was at the game, and the game was close. But
right.
As we wore down in the third quarter, Charlotte Christian just didn't have the depth. That's the problem with the private programs. They don't have the depth that these big 4A schools have.
Yeah, exactly.
So if this is I haven't looked to see what the weather's going to be like as far as temperature, humidity, because that drains your body. I think it'll be a highly physical game. Weddington's one of the most physical programs overall.
Gosh, I'll tell you what, in a period of 10 years, they became one of the most physical teams ever. And really back in 2016, you remember that time we were sitting on the sidelines and we were watching Weddington play Eastern Guilford. And
I do. Yep.
That Weddington defensive or linebacker just took out the quarterback. And I was like, wow.
Well, see, I can go all the way back when my son was playing at Olympic and we went over to Weddington to play. And we're talking about 2007.
Right.
And I remember leaving that game thinking I'd never seen a football team that hit as hard as they did by the number of players that all hit hard. Yeah, you get one player here and there that, are just dynamite on the field, but Weddington's a team that does two things very well. They hit well, and they are a extremely disciplined team, and their football IQ is through the roof.
They're fundamental. They're like Catholic a lot of ways, Charlotte Catholic.
They're very much like Catholic. They're like a Catholic. If people are familiar with Catholic in their discipline and football IQ. That's going to be a good game, Jim.
Yeah.
You can watch it on stream, I think, if you're not people that are not going to be there.
How about Northwestern Huff? What do you think about that? I don't know how Northwestern is this year, but
That's a state title contender.
So we'll find out how really good
against us.
Huff is.
Exactly. We will find out. The thing about this game is that South Carolina football is well ahead of North Carolina two ways. One, of course, they have spring football, not this stuff that we have in North Carolina. But two, they also start earlier in the fall, and they're
Right.
usually about a week ahead of us in scrimmages and games, etc. So that can mean a lot in a game like this. That extra preparation that a great team has, and Huff is really, they've had some scrimmages, but scrimmages, you know, you only get so far with what you get out of a scrimmage versus what they do down in South Carolina. So we'll learn a
Right.
lot about Huff in this game. Now, I say all that. I picked Huff to win this game, but I may eat. I don't know if it's eat crow, but I may eat crow on that game.
Gotcha. Looking at some other games here, West Columbus at Lake Norman Charter. That's a long drive there,
That
down
is a
from
very long game.
Cerro
Drive.
Gordo, which is going towards Whiteville,
Whiteville.
and Lake
Whiteville.
Norman Charter. Gosh, that's a long drive. I don't even know where American Leadership is. Union. That's over in Sampson County. Cabarrus Stallions, Mountain Island Charter. Mountain Island Charter should win that game. Davie versus Mooresville. We're going to see
That's
how
a
good.
rival.
That's a very good rivalry game. That's a
Yeah.
fun game. That goes back to the old North Piedmont, Western
Yeah.
North Carolina High School Athletic Association days. I
Yeah.
got Mooresville winning that game.
I would pick Morsel. Yeah.
Now the Battle of the Waynes. We'll see who wins the Wayne's World contest. I got Eastern Wayne winning this game. I think they're a little bit better, or a lot better than Southern Wayne. Now here's one for you. Perquimans, Manio historically has had a lot better program than Perquimans. Perquimans will beat Manio this year, in my humble opinion.
I'm going to check and see if we got any comments too. Just Butler or Roseville. Okay, we're going to get to that one.
Southern Alamance Graham. Southern Alamance will. This is the battle of Graham itself. Both schools are in Graham. Southern Alamance will just wipe the floor of Graham. West Craven will wipe the floor of Pamlico. South Meck, Charlotte Catholic. Catholic will win that game.
Maybe. Now that's also a rival game. That's a
Yeah, it
big
is.
rival game. The schools you can walk between the two schools, the two campuses.
And the one thing I'd say that though, Catholic, regime change. Who knows? Who knows what will happen?
Yeah, who knows? Joe. I wish him luck. I hope. I would like to see Joe win that game.
Olympic West Meck. I probably will take Olympic in this game. How about you?
Probably, just because of what I said about West earlier.
Right.
So I would think Olympics got the edge in that game.
Should be a pretty close game though.
It could be.
Middle Creek Fuquay. Middle Creek should win that game. Although that's believe it or not, Fuquay Middle Creek's not that far from each other. High Point Andrews versus Bartley Yancey. Andrews should have the edge in that one. Cannon, Christ the King. I'll take Christ the King. I don't know much about Cannon these days. I don't have a pick or preference on this game here. Pasquotank County, they should win that game as long as they have enough players on the field. Northwest Halifax have been fighting numbers for a decade, it seems. Persons versus Lewisburg. Lewisburg's had a better teams the last few years. I got Person winning that game, 3A versus a 2A. North Johnson, South Lenoir, 6-1, half a dozen. The other should be a pretty decent battle. I don't have a pick. Lejeune versus Pender. I got Pender winning that game. Panther Creek versus Hillside. That should be a fun game to watch. Should have a lot of good uh, skills players on both sides of the ball. Hillside might have a little bit uh, more strength in the trenches. Porter Ridge, Rocky River. I'd take Porter Ridge at this point. This Northwest Cabarrus versus West Cabarrus. West Cabarrus is a 4A school. Could be a good game. I got Northwest Cabarrus
I got
winning it.
Northwest, yeah.
Nash Central will just beat Southeast Halifax probably by 3 or 4 touchdowns. Southeast is not a bad 1A program, but Nash is a really good 2A. Rolesville Butler. Okay, this is an interesting game. I believe this game is it in Butler? I can't remember was it Butler or not.
I think it is.
I think last year was at Rolesville.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's at Butler. I think field conditions are going to have a lot. So there's just my short comments. We don't go too long. Are that field conditions will probably play a part. New coaching regime against Rolesville, which is just a dynamite loaded team. I think Rolesville wins this game just because of the first game of the season. And
what was the game score last year? It was like 19-15 or something. It was a pretty close game.
It was close. I don't remember.
Geringer, Hopewell. Poor Geringer.
Yeah, poor Geringer.
Sun Valley Central Cabarrus. I got Sun Valley winning that game.
Sun Valley, yeah.
Westover versus Seaforth. I'll give it a Westover. Seaforth is right outside of Pittsboro, North Carolina, and Chatham County. Carver versus Northmore. I'm going to go with Carver. Carver's got more depth. Northmore is going to be really young this year, but they do have a lot of talent. It's just going to be raw this year. They had a really good JV team. Northmore is a 1A school. Carver's, can't remember if they're 2A or 3A now, but I think they're 2A. But Northmore's got a lot of talent coming up. I'm going to take Carver in this game. Close one. Farmville Central versus Goldsboro. Farmville will win that one. The Jags will take it. This is the game I'm actually going to go to. I'm kind of interested about both teams. Ragsdale is a 4A team. Antoine Stevenson used to be the head coach at Curtis Glen. He's now at Ragsdale. Is at Northeast Guilford. Northeast Guilford was 7-3 in the regular season last year. I think this has got a makings of a really good game. Decided to go to McLeansville. That's over in the northeastern part of Guilford County, hence the name here. Should be a fun one to go to. South Central Kinston. I don't know. It's when you're dealing with like 2A school versus 3A or whatever, and neither one really strikes my fancy. Maybe Kinston, but Marvin Ridge versus Reagan. This is another good game right here to go to.
I think I'm going to pick Marvin Ridge, but yeah, I think that could be a good game.
It should be I imagine whoever wins that game will win it by 10 points or less. Eastern Randolph versus Eastern Alamance. I actually saw this game last year or 2 years ago, either last year or 2 years ago. And I think it was last year. Eastern Alamance is a really good team. They have a regime change. Long-term head coach John Kirby retired after last season. Eastern Randolph still has Burton Cates. Eastern Randolph's a 1A school. Eastern Alamance is 3A. Don't be surprised if Eastern Randolph pulls this game out. So, this is a pretty close one. Maybe I'll give Eastern Alamance the slightest of edge, but it's going to be close. White Oak, I think White Oak will beat East Carteret. And Hertford County versus Gates County. That's going to be an interesting one. Hertford is going to be a young team. God, I want to call it Hertford. But Hertford is going to be a young team, but they have a lot of numbers, so we'll see. Friendship, Millbrook, that's going to be a good game.
Millbrook, yeah.
Allegheny versus Surrey Central, it's going to be a sloppy game. That could go either way. Bird versus Red Springs, I'll take Red Springs in that. So, no offense, Coach Huey. He's a good man. Terry Sanford versus Topsail. I'll take Terry Sanford. Vance County versus Warren County. I'll take Vance. And this right here, this is going to be interesting. Lee County's down right now. They didn't make the playoffs last year. Northern Durham's been down for a few years. This could be an ugly game. I'm going to take Lee County in a close one. It's kind of hard to believe that both teams are down right now,
Yeah. Especially Northern Durham. But
exactly. Yeah. Wakefield versus Leesville Road. Got Leesville Road winning that. This game right here is going to be like two mangy dogs fighting over a bone.
Two hungry mangy dogs.
Yeah. I just hope that I hope both teams have at least 30 players on there. East Chapel Hill one year had to call their season because they only could get 13 players to dress. Cedar Ridge has had to pull out, I think, two times over the last 6-7 years. East Chapel Hill's lost like 3 seasons over the last 10 years where they didn't play varsity. Apex versus Franklinton. I don't know, Apex. Another one I don't really care about. Orange, Southeast Alamance. I went to this game last year. Orange won. This year I'm taking Southeast Alamance. I think Southeast will win that. Southeast 2A, Orange 3A. You know what I now think about it? I went to see the Eastern Randolph and Eastern Alamance in 2022. Hunt versus Northern Nash. This is going to be a good game. Northern Nash should win this game, but Hunt, don't be surprised if Hunt surprises people and maybe has a lead in the third quarter or fourth quarter, makes things interesting. But I think Northern Nash will pull it out. I don't care. I shouldn't say I don't care. I just don't know.
Right.
Richland's probably a little bit better.
I got no idea.
Yeah. Cape Fear, I like them over Pine Forest. And Ledford versus Glen, I'll probably take I think that actually could be a really good game place-wise, but maybe Glen by a little bit.
I was thinking Ledford.
Heck, you know what? The more I think about it, you're right about that. We'll see. That's a pick 'em to me.
Right. That could be a good game.
Sanderson versus Corinth Holders. That should be a pretty good game. I'll take Sanderson. Martin Samick was the coach at Corinth Holders for 1 year. He is gone. He's gone now. Jeremy Buck is the head coach over at Sanderson. So I want to take Sanderson in the close one. This one right here, 3A versus the best 1A team in the East. This could be a really good game here. I think Tarboro is going to pull it out. But if Rocky Mount, if they happen to win this game, it kind of solidifies why they're a sleeper in my rankings.
Right. I'm picking Tarboro, but there's a big difference in numbers there. So
yeah, exactly. Mount Zion versus Hobgood, don't care. Harding versus Corian Community. I wouldn't be surprised if Corian wins this game.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Conley versus Laney. I got Laney winning this game. I think Laney, we'll see how good Laney is the first 2 or 3 games of the season. This should be one that Laney wins by 10, 14 points. Athens Drive versus Ashley. I don't know. I might take Ashley in that one. That's going to be at the beach. Pinecrest versus Nightdale. Believe it or not, Nightdale gave Pinecrest, I think, a scare last year, but Pinecrest, I think, has too much talent.
I like Pinecrest.
Newbern, they should beat Willow Springs. Berry versus East Meck.
That's a hard call. Berry, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
Montgomery Central, they should beat Carborough. Hartnett Central, West Johnson, I don't know. RJ Reynolds versus High Point Central. I'll take RJ Reynolds in that game. East Wake for Southern Nash, take Southern Nash. New Hanover versus Rose. That could be a really good game. That would be a fun game to go to in Wilmington. Concord over Piedmont, I think. Who do you take in that game?
I don't know.
I'm gonna
You
take
would
Concord.
you would think Concord, Piedmont. No, I wouldn't pick Piedmont. Too small a program.
Southern Rowan or South Rowan should be Union Academy. North Brunswick, they had a really good season last year. They go up against East Bladen. This could be a pick 'em right here, 3A versus 1A. Grace Creek versus E. Smith. Grace Creek should win that game. E. Smith's been down on their luck for a while. They keep on losing numbers, or not athletes, but just the ADMs. Their ADMs are down quite a bit. Cardinal Gibbons versus Jordan. Cardinal Gibbons should win that game by a couple of touchdowns, but Jordan is a team that can make any team look sloppy. We shall see. Early in the season, this is a game that if Jordan's going to be really special, they got to come out there and knock Cardinal Gibbons down. But early season game, that could be a upset. I got Cardinal Gibbons winning. Union Pines versus Triton. 1981 Union Pines grad, my buddy Reuben Davis. I hate to disappoint you, Rube, but I'm picking Triton. Charlotte Christian versus Coxmill. Any feel for that one?
Charlotte Christian, I think.
How about Palisades? And how good's Palisades going to be this year?
Palisades should be really good this year. They will contend for conference championship. There's definitely, I believe, a gap between these two, but Palisades played them very close last year. So West Charlotte's the favorite, and rightly so. Palisades could surprise.
South Gardner versus Smithfield Selma. I got South Gardner winning that. Kip Pride versus Washington County. That's going to be an ugly one. Washington County has not been right ever since they became Washington County back in around 2017 or so. Coach Cody left. Then the program was shut down for a couple of years because of COVID. Kip Pride might win that game, but I'll pick Washington County just being I'm a homer. CB Aycock, Charles B. Aycock versus Rosewood. 1A versus, I think Aycock is, I think they're 3A. Rosewood is really good 1A team. CB Aycock's a good 3A squad. This is a good matchup for both teams. I'm going to go with Aycock.
I agree. I think Rosewood could pull it out, but
yeah,
that's again numbers. That's a big numbers game there.
Exactly. Clayton versus Wake Forest. This is a good game to go to, and this was one game I thought about it, but I wanted to go to see the Northeast Guilford Ragsdale game, but this is going to be a fun one for both of them. Both coaches, Reggie Lucas, Scott Chadwick. I mean, this is going to be a chess game right here. It could go either way. I like both programs. To me, this is kind of a flip. It's at Wake Forest, but we shall see. Maybe Wake Forest has a little bit of an inherent edge. They might have a little bit more experience. Clayton might have a little bit more talent.
I'm picking.
This
Clayton.
is going to be fun. You're going to pick Clayton, okay?
Yeah, I think it'll be a close game, but I'm picking Clayton.
Northeastern will be all over the Dirty Birds of Bertie. Northside Pinetown, I have them over Camden. North Edgecombe, Southwest Edgecombe. Sorry, guys over in the outside of Tarboro, but the guys over in Pine Top will win that game. Being Southwest Edgecombe will win that game. Fairmont Lumberton, Lumberton is a program that should be a lot better.
Yeah, I keep wondering, are they going to ever be as good as I would think they could be?
I'll withhold right now. It's Lumberton should win that game, but it's who knows. James Keenan should beat Swansboro. Hopton Midway is going to be a good one here. I got Midway winning that game. Hopton knows how to score points, but can they play defense? It's a big question. Here's a battle between Eastern Guilford over in Gibsonville and the Greensboro's Northern Guilford Nighthawks. This has a makings to be a really good game here. Northern Guilford might win that game. We'll see. Parkwood, Cuthbertson, I got Cuddy winning that one. How about you?
I do too.
I got Fike over Beddingfield. And Wallace Rose Hill versus Havelock. That's going to be a fun game. This is a budding rivalry. Havelock has trouble beating Wallace Rose Hill. This is one of the favorites in 3A. This is one of the favorites in 2A. They meet up. I got Havelock winning it. It's at Havelock. We shall see. Any thoughts?
No, that's a good pick. I think it'll be a good game, and will not be surprised if Wallace Rose Hill wins. But
exactly.
Yeah, I would pick. I'd bet an ice cream cone on Havelock.
Carolina Forest. I think they might be out of South Carolina. I'll skip that game. North Iredell versus South Iredell. This is going to be an ugly game here, guys. I'm surprised they're playing so early in the season, to be honest with you. I guess because South Iredale's 4A, North Iredale's 3A. South Iredale's dropped down quite a bit. I'm going with South Iredale, but this is going to be an ugly one. Gary's on the line. He might have a different thought, but South Stanley, the Rowdy Rebel Bulls versus the West Stanley Colts. Got West Stanley winning that game.
West Stanley, I do too.
Elkin versus North Wilkes. I don't really have a feel for that one. 1A versus 2A. Elkin's probably a little bit more talented, so I'll go with Elkin. Southside versus North Duplin. I like North Duplin in this game. Northwood versus Riverside Durham. My buddy Corey Lee. Also a fellow member of the 1988 Boys State. We went to Wake Forest together, 17-year-olds, back 36 years ago. I want to go with Riverside. Chapel Hill versus Southern Durham. I like Southern Durham in this game. I'll take Lakewood over Spring Creek. This is going to be an interesting game right here.
I'm taking JMR.
JMR, they've moved up to 3A last year, and Hickory Ridge, I think Hickory Ridge 4A. I think Robinson just has better everything. South Columbus, they used to be a really good program. They've really struggled recently versus West Bladen. No feel for that game. Green Central, North Lenore. I'll go with Green Central. East Wilkes versus West Wilkes, 1A versus 2A. I'm going with the 1A team, East Wilkes in that one. East Duplin versus Dixon, East Duplin. This is going to be a good game, believe it or not. We're going to see how good Southwest Onslow is. Jacksonville should win this game by probably a couple scores, but Southwest Onslow can make it interesting. Mount Pleasant, Carson. I'm going with Mount Pleasant.
I'm going with Mount Pleasant too, yeah.
How about this one here? Lake Norman, North Mac.
Those are. I don't know. People are saying North Mac might be pretty good this year. I think that's going to be a good ball game, and
I think so too.
My gut says pick Lake Norman, but I don't know. I really can't say because I don't know a lot about North Mac. But I would pick Lake Norman and not be shocked if North Mac wins.
That's kind of how I feel about it. Lexington, Parkland. I'm going with Parkland on this one. It could be ugly game, but I'm going with Parkland. Watauga versus TC Roberson. This is going to be a good game. These Watauga is 4A, TC Roberson 3A. I'm going with Watauga on that one.
I will pick Watauga. The TCR could make it a good game, but yeah, Watauga.
Now here's one: A.L. Brown versus Western Wan. These
a rival.
The rival, and both teams are kind of maybe down, historically down.
Yeah, historically down.
Well, I'll say historically, West Rowan, the first 37 years only had like 8 winning seasons, and then
Well,
they
the
had
the
Scott
West,
Young.
yeah, the Scott Young is at least what always comes to my head when I think
Yeah,
West Rowan.
I'm
So
going. I'm going with A.L. Brown in that game. It's going to
okay,
be a
yeah,
close one though.
I would too.
Green Level, I saw that team last year, and I've never seen a. Well, it's kind of hard to explain. That was the creepiest mascot I ever seen. The Gators there.
Yeah.
If you just had to be there. It was just really weird.
No, I can
Versus
appreciate it. They're one of the teams that I kind of pay attention to on X, because they do a great job of putting out information on all of their sports.
right.
So I see a lot of green level tweets, and yeah, I'm with you on the mascot.
The one thing I'll say about Green Levels, their fields, uh, they didn't. It's a new school. They didn't spend a lot on their field. It just doesn't. If you were there, you're like,
Hmm.
it's not a lot of originality. It doesn't look great, but a lot of pride in that program. They're a new program, fairly new. But I'm a South Granville is a 2A school. Green Level's 4A. I'm going with Green Level in this one. No offense to my buddies over in Creedmoor, but I like Green Level in that one. Scotland versus Dillon. I don't know how good Dillon is these years.
I think
These
the
years,
bagpipes will be playing all night. But, okay.
good. Oh gosh, this is another one too. Mangy dogs. I mean, they're blind. That can't hear worth a darn. Fighting over a mangy bone. Yeah, that's gonna be the ugly one. Wilson Prep versus Aiden Grifton. Aiden Grifton's not a bad 2A program. Wilson Prep's a really good 1A, a very good 1A. I'm going Wilson Prep on that one.
I'm going Wilson Prep.
South Johnson, Princeton. I'll go with Princeton. Let's just cut through the chase here. Heritage versus East Forsyth. East Forsyth on that one.
East Forsyth.
I almost skip over some of this. Forest Hills should beat Ashbrook, although Ashbrook has a lot of talent.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what Forest Hills does this year.
Almost skip through some Williams, Northwest Guilford. That's going to be a really good game. A really good game. Williams a little bit over that. I'm not going to talk about these couple of these games here. Let's go down here. Oh, this is a good one. We're going to see how good both of these programs are.
Yep, that's a big game early. Another
I'll
one of
take
the big
Reesville.
games. Yeah, I like Reesville almost always.
Yeah. Cutting through here. Irwin, Daniel Boone. That's one of those Tennessee teams. Morton County, they're called the Gators now. They'll be playing North Pitt, so we'll see what happens. Clinton, Northside, Jacksonville, Clinton. Let's see here. Let's go find another game here. Oh, here's a good one. Robbinsville versus East Surrey. I think it was last year Robbinsville beat East Surrey something like 42-0. And we will say Robbinsville in a closer game, a lot closer. Mount Heritage Chase. Gosh, this is a good one, Dale.
I agree. I think
I'm going Mountain Heritage.
I know you are, and I'm just thinking. I figured you would, where you put them in your preseason rankings. I think Chase has got a chance at this one.
Oh, I think
Yeah,
they do too. I think it's going to be a very close
I
one.
think it'll be a very good. I think it'll be a very good football game. It's one of the few 7:30 start games too.
right.
Most games I've noticed now are going to 7 o'clock. So we're hitting these 7:30 games now. But yeah,
For
yeah,
the fans and stuff, I think the true diehards that like the later games. I like the earlier games because I like being home
yeah.
at a decent hour.
The trade-off is to be able to get to the game a later start, but then get home earlier if it's an earlier start.
Mount Airy versus North Guilford or North Surrey. Mount Airy won that game. Inca, oh gosh, that's the smelliest place on the face of the earth.
Uh-huh.
Versus Black Mountain Owens War Horses. Those Owen guys, they used to be really good, but they just fallen off the face of the earth. One person said with Owen, after they tackle you, not only will they'll give you a hand, but they'll try to dust you off to make sure you're clean. Um, Hoggard, Cleveland, that's going to be a good game. That's going to be a really good game. These are two contenders right here.
Yeah, I don't know who to pick. Hoggard maybe, but I don't know Cleveland. I'll pick Hoggard, but
Okay.
I think that'd be I don't know. You
Yeah,
picking Hoggard or Cleveland?
I'm actually leaning towards Hoggard myself. I think it's going to be a close one though.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let's go down here. I see someone about South Codwell, West Codwell. I don't think we've gotten to them yet. But no, I
No,
will
I
think
haven't
about it.
seen any Caldwell stuff yet.
Star Mount should be all over Trinity. Albemarle, Ashboro. Albemarle should beat Ashboro, believe it or not. But we'll see. Ashboro, one of my buddies, Scott Furr, who I introduced to you, Dale, he's actually coaching at
Right.
Ashboro. He's on the staff now. Salisbury should beat North
Should
Davidson.
beat them, but North Davidson can be a tough team. But Salisbury should take that game.
Wattville,
Whiteville. If I can get it right. Whiteville.
they'll beat Bun, I think. Bandy's St. Stephen's. This is a team I want to see how good Bandy's is. They should beat St. Stephen's. At least I think they'll beat St. Stephen's, but we'll see. McDowell versus RS Central. Yeah, we'll skip that. Statesville Alexander Central. If I was a Statesville fan, this is a game that I want to see how Statesville does against the Cougars.
Yeah, it'll tell you if Statesville's going to be good this year. Not saying Alexander Central is going to be great, but they're always a test. So.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I can't remember. Last year's game was pretty close. I was thinking Alexander Central might have beat Statesville last year.
Yeah, within inside of 3 points, I think.
I think you're right.
Um,
Let's get some of these here. Oak Grove versus Southwest Guilford. Yeah, that's Oak Grove should win that one.
yeah.
Let's get some of these here. Polk versus Madison. Polk will win that one. Here we go. South Caldwell versus West Caldwell. I've heard promising things about the West Caldwell program. We shall see on this one. I think this game, Dale, I don't know about you, but it just seems like there's maybe a little bit more juice at West Caldwell these days than South Caldwell. I'm going to go with West Caldwell.
Yeah, I can't argue that. Don't know enough to argue against that. And that would be my blind pick.
Yeah, it's one of these. This is a matchup that just like I'd like to have more information about both programs.
Yeah.
I know one of our contributors from last year, I believe, is on the staff of West Caldwell this year. But we shall see on that. Case will win that game. Let's see here. Bessemer City, East Rutherford. We'll see how good Bessemer City is on this one. This could be a pretty decent matchup. This is another decent matchup. My alma mater, North Stanley, they barely beat Anson last year. This year, Anson might be. This is a pick 'em right here. Anson might have a little bit of an edge. I'll take Anson.
I'd take Anson too.
East Gaston, North Gaston. I got East Gaston winning this game.
Taking East Gaston too.
West Forsyth, I'll take AC Reynolds.
Yeah, especially if it's an ACR. Yeah.
Fisk versus Brevard. We'll see how good both these teams are, but Brevard, I'll take them.
Yeah.
Ooh, Richmond versus 71st. You remember last year, Richmond just struggled out of the gates, and this is the reason why you play teams like 71st.
71st is my pick here.
Monroe will win that game.
Monroe, yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, that's another ugly game right here. Hickory should beat High Brighton by probably
They should. Yeah.
3 or 4 touchdowns. West Lincoln versus North Lincoln. This is going to be a pretty good game here.
I'll pick.
You taking which one?
I'm taking West Lincoln.
Okay,
Who
I'm going
you
to take North
picking?
Lincoln on that one.
Okay.
It's going to be a close one though. Swain versus Country Day.
I'm gonna
I'm
take
going to go with
Swain.
Swain.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Swain. You would think Country Day, but Country Day, I don't think so. Yeah,
Red Raiders over the Wolves.
Yeah, you think so?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think Murphy will be all over Franklin. Oh, let's see here. Go a little bit more fun here. Here's a good one. Shelby Kings Mountain.
That's a huge game there. Just from a rival point of view, that's a huge game. Oh gosh, I wish I could go to that game.
Shelby, they've won championships and have lost to Kings Mountain in the regular season.
Right.
This might be a payback game.
Well, 2A, 3A schools, so they can still do that. That's going to be a great ball game, just from the atmosphere to. So I guess that's at Shelby. Is that right?
It's at Shelby.
Yeah. So
I'm taking Shelby to win this one.
I'd pick Shelby, especially being at Shelby. But that's going to be no more than a 2-score game and probably a 1-score game.
I agree. Maiden will have them over Ford. Let's go down here. Thomasville versus Randleman. Randleman's a really good 2A team.
Come on,
very good 2A team.
I'm picking Thomasville, but
okay, I'm going to pick Randleman on this one.
Yeah, I'm just picking them from a sentimental value.
I gotcha.
I don't know enough to evaluate the two against each other without looking at a few things. So
now these right here, this Mount Tabor versus Grimsley. Mount Tabor is probably the third best team in the triad. Grimsley number 1, probably East Forsyth 2, probably Mount Tabor 3.
I pick Grimsley here because I think Grimsley's going to roll through most of the regular season, if not all of it.
St. Paul's. Let's see here. This one right here is one that's. I got reasons to think. I think Dudley will win this game. I have reasons to think Page is going to make it a close one.
Yeah, I think Dudley wins this game.
I do too.
It could be a close game, but I picked Dudley. Yeah,
Page is. They were young last year, and they were had trouble moving the ball, but I got Dudley win this one. Bunker Hill, Freedom. That's Freedom. They got a new head coach. The guy that was at. I think it was over at Mount Airy, J.D. Atkins.
Mm-hmm.
That's West Davis and Wheatmore. We'll skip that. Let's see here.
Who was go back one? Just let's see who Latin was playing. Okay, Mitchell.
Yeah. Burns should be all over Forest View.
Yeah.
East Lincoln should be all over the Storm. This one right here is going to be an interesting one. This game could really go either way. Northampton versus Roanoke Rapids. Both teams are going to be down a little bit from last year. Cherville.
Yep, Cherville.
I'm going to take Avery in that game, though.
Oh, wow.
I think Avery just might be a little bit stronger this year than they have been in the past. This is going to be a good game for Newton Conover. They're going to be underdogs against West Henderson.
Yeah.
West Henderson is a really solid 3A program. But Newton Conover is going to be a good way to gauge how good they are this year.
I like West Henderson.
All right, Crimson versus Clover. Okay, no, it's Chambers versus Clover. Any thoughts on that one? Because I can't help you out on that one.
Well, Clover is strong. I picked Chambers. I don't know that I made the right choice. But in our pick, in the Charlotte Observer pick, I might pick Chambers. So I'll stick with that pick right now.
Okay. North Rowan versus East Rowan. I'm gonna go with North Rowan. 1A versus 3A, but I'm gonna go with 1A.
Yeah.
Huss versus Drawn. This game right here last year was a pretty good one, if I remember right. Southern versus Southeast. Southeast is down right now. It's it was only about a few years ago when Southeast was in the state championship, but they're not down now. But Providence versus Ardrey Kell. This is going to be a good game, Dale.
Huge rival game.
This is going to be a really good one. It starts at 8 o'clock
Yeah.
even.
The new school does not hurt either school because the new school only gets freshmen and sophomores. So I think it's going to be a good ball game. I think Providence has the edge, but
Right.
it's going to be somebody's looking for a game and they don't like the other games. That'll be a good game to go watch.
And it's also at 8 o'clock, guys. If you
Yeah,
want to, if you don't
I
have
wonder
time to
why.
get home from work, you can go to this game.
Yeah, I wonder why they're doing an 8 o'clock start. That's
Oh,
the
this is the
only
last.
game at 8. Yeah.
That's the end of it here. So I'll
Some
tell.
really good ball games. There's some top notch out of that whole mix of games, Jim. There are a lot of ones and twos. I think it's going to be closer than it has been. She's talking about West Lincoln. We're missing 2 to 3 main players.
Yeah, West
Okay.
Lincoln, North Lincoln's going to be a fun game. The one thing I'll say about the West this year, 1A, 2A, 3A, and 4A, it is deep.
Yeah.
It's deep and wide.
It was deep and wide last year too. So
It was.
um,
But the 4A, I mean, you really do have a four-headed monster in 4A. I mean,
4A, the problem for the four-headed monster is that the next dozen teams, it truly is one of those. On any given night they could step up and beat them. It's got to be the most brutal, although 3A West is very brutal too,
right.
but 4A West is an extremely brutal to come out of it unscathed. So yeah, those 4 teams, I like those 4 teams. I think those 4 teams are potentially the 2 regional in the semifinals of the regionals.
Right.
A lot of good football though to play, and people can get hurt, and so there's a lot to happen between now and then. Is West Charlotte and Indy playing this year? Unfortunately, no. And you can go to Twitter and see the exchange between Coach McFadden and Coach Griner about that. But no, they're not. West Charlotte, because they built a new stadium, they didn't have home games, and then the next year, when the stadium was built, but the parking lot wasn't ready, CMS didn't let them use the stadium, so again they didn't have home games, and it was their turn to have. It was actually on Indy's. I forget how it was now, but West Charlotte wanted the game at home, as Independence wanted it there. West Charlotte actually agreed to play it there if Indy would share a gate. Indy didn't want to do it. The game's not happening. So unfortunately, one of the long time big rivalries in Charlotte that got kicked back up is now not taking place right now. I kind of
Yeah.
hate that because that would have been a really good game this year. It's been a good game. It was a good game last year. Um, so no, unfortunately, they're not playing each other. And hey guys, I heard the conference is changing for the 2025 season.
Yeah,
So
it's going to be a realignment next year.
exactly.
It's going to be
And what
8A.
Yeah, exactly. What they look like, I don't know. But we're gonna have eight
It's
conferences,
going to
or
be
eight,
it's going to be
excuse me,
all over this place.
classifications.
It's going to be like here. Hey,
Exactly.
this is a 3A, 4A, 5A conference. Oh, this is a 1A, 2A, 3A.
We're gonna have that. It's I don't know. We'll just have to see what they come up with, but it's going to
If
be nasty in my opinion.
I'll also speak out about Sam. I talked to one of his high school classmates. I think Amy was a couple years younger than Sam, or a year younger. My
Uh-huh.
cousin, she called me up today. So always good to talk to my cousin. She went to Butler
Uh-huh.
High School. Knew Sam. Uh, this is I'm excited about this year. I think the reason I'm really excited today is I got my press pass. I'm like, yes,
Yeah. Uh
it's Christmas. It's Christmas.
I'm excited just one reason because I just really fear for what next season's going to bring as
Yeah,
we see the decline of the NCHSAA. Um, I think there's a lot of great football teams this year. This might be one of the better years of teams.
I
Um,
agree.
I think every year we have competition, but some years we have just a few great teams. Especially 4A.
And
Um,
the East is catching up. Also, believe it or not,
right,
the 1A, we're starting to see somebody, maybe a couple teams that might challenge Tarboro. That's good.
right.
2A, I mean, you got a
Yep.
couple of favorites, and you got probably about six others right behind them. 3A, it's the same more. 4A, there's a lot of, I mean, there's probably a dozen teams that can make it to the regional final. It's going to
I'd
be a
like
fun year.
I'd like to see the East get some more population so that they can uh, produce more teams and have more competition over on that side.
The
Um,
big difference between the West and the East is the West has the Charlotte Mecklenburg area, and we got the Research Triangle area.
right, exactly.
And it's
Well,
a
and
big
you've also
difference.
got the triad. So
Well,
you know the
Triad's actually in the West, yeah.
yeah,
Greensboro,
that's what I'm. Oh, you're talking
yeah,
about the the research triangle for the East, exactly. Got you.
yeah,
But that's 4A. So
right.
you've got it for 4A. We need to have more schools so that we can have a wider, deeper 1A, 2A
Oh, I agree.
in the East as well, kind of like what we have over here in the West.
See, what
Um,
we used to have in the East, we used to have, the Fayetteville schools. You'd always have three or four. You used to have Jack Brett's
right.
and the
Yep.
71st. Douglas Byrd had some really good teams back in the day.
Hmm.
Southview, I mean, uh, you know, Richmond County was always great. Scotland, and now you're only seeing maybe you got 71st is really good. Scotland's really good. I mean, after that, Pinecrest is, yeah, you can throw Pinecrest in there also. They're a really good
Right.
team, but it's only about three or four teams. No, it's not 7 or 8 teams in there. The triad. I mean, you got East Forsyth, you got Grimsley, you got Mount Tabor. I mean, you got West Forsyth. I mean, you got Northern Guilford's good. Page is always there. Eastern Guilford. It's a big difference.
Very
So
big difference. I think it's gonna be interesting to see how teams come out of this week. The teams that we think are strong, do they win? Some of these teams have got some pretty stiff competition. So, when did they change the East and West alignment? I
that
remember
was
Advanced Chambers played Richmond in the semifinals. It used to be that the way that East and West was done is that you didn't know until
You picked
uh,
64 teams.
we did the ADM, and then so we get 64 teams, and then you
Split by
split them.
ADMs.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
And
you
then you
split it by East West then.
exactly. So
That,
that
that's why
all. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
that's why you have a team like Whiteville playing in the West because they're a 1A team at a given time, and you're
Right.
playing a 1AA and Starmount or somewhere like that, somewhere way out there.
Exactly. So since we didn't know until you did all that other stuff, that always pushed. It was like 90, maybe 100% of the time, Richmond always came west. Um, because as you looked at teams, sizes, all that other stuff, Richmond is further west than all the other traditional West teams up in the Raleigh area and all. So it always pushed them west. So now we go into the season knowing who is East and West.
Right.
Um, and I kind of like that better because I always thought the problem is that Richmond always had to come west and play these strong West teams, and it limited their number of state championship opportunities because of that. Whereas if they had gone to the East, they'd had an easier road to the regional finals and then into the state championship. Once they moved it to this way, Richmond's, not the powerhouse they used to be. So um, that's kind of a shame in that regard. Richmond maybe could have won some more state championships or been in a position to at least attend more state championships had they
Right.
not had they had this kind of alignment. So that's been what, 2 years now? Is this the second or third year?
This is the
Or, I mean,
fourth
is this
year.
a third year? Is it so? This is the fourth year, not the third year. Is
Fourth
that
year.
right?
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah, it
Yeah, I
happened
was
right because they were going to do the numbers right prior to COVID. Then COVID
at
happened.
COVID. Exactly. At COVID. Exactly. That's
Yeah,
right.
it was a mess, just a
That's
total
right.
mess.
I was thinking in my head this was the third year that we've done it, but you're right. Um,
You remember
so
2021? That was a fun year because you had the 2020 season was during the spring or the winter of
yeah, man, we
2021.
rolled right into football again.
I mean, not trying to be funny, that was some of the best football I've seen in a long time because those players were had more experience, they had more memory, they retained more.
Right.
Right out of the gates, they were a lot better.
Well, that's what happens when you get to play football in the spring. That's why South Carolina football and some other, Texas and other places have better football because they do have a true spring, and
Right,
we don't.
I agree with you.
Carrie says she loved it. So, all right. So, we know where you're going. We know where I'm going. Um, we'll be back next week to talk about what we saw. You can follow me and Jim on X and keep up with our scores. Tweet at us and let us know your scores. Uh, I'd like to find a way to duel it and start putting some scores up on threads, but that might be too difficult for me to do. I might see. I don't know that there's many people on threads right now.
Yeah, I agree with
But
you.
it's from a football standpoint. Threads is actually growing faster than well, Twitter's not growing. Twitter's shrinking.
Now, are you doing the
Um,
Twitter Spaces with how we did last year with Langston?
yes,
They're going
yes, yeah. So
okay.
Friday evening, I don't think we're going to do anything tomorrow night, but Friday night we will.
Okay,
Um,
that's cool.
so pay
Yeah,
attention, and Jim will be there. We'll be there on Twitter Spaces Friday night. y'all tune in if you've not ever listened to it. And if you've got something to say, you can come on and say it. We'll let you say it.
And Langston, if you're listening, hope you do listen. Hope you're listening on your podcast or on our podcast later on. Feel free to invite me over to Talking Preps. I'll try my best to behave.
Since we went almost 3 hours,
yeah,
he probably stopped listening a long time ago. I don't know, but I don't think he listened this long.
He might be listening tomorrow on his jog or his walk. I know a lot of times he's
well, that's what I'm talking about. When he starts listening, he says he listens on his morning walks and jogs, but I don't know if he'll listen to 3 hours of this. He might.
I got you.
2 hours and 45 minutes.
I guess it's about time for me to rest my voice. So,
yep.
Anyway, man, it's good catching up with everybody. Dale, you have anything else you want to say?
No.
All right.
I'm surprised we still have 5 people listening or watching right now.
Yeah, guys are troopers. So, from me, Jim West, and Dale Ross, thank you so much for listening to Carolina Varsity, or Dale and Jim, or Jim and Dale, or let's call it Dale and Jim. Jim and Dale.
No, it's Jim. It's Jim and Dale is the way it is.
The Jim and Dale show. We'll dance for you. This is the time we'll dance here.
Not me. Yeah.
Doing the sprinkler. I hate doing it.
Do the robot.
There you go.
All right.
All right, guys.